Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
Season 6, episode 46 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. Jonathan Lidskin is not with me tonight. Instead, in his stead, we have Tanner McGrath. Tanner, welcome to Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers.
I can't believe it's my first appearance. It's been too long of us flirting for me to get on the podcast, but I'm happy to be here. Discuss some Northeast ball, America East ball, my favorite.
So here's how this is going to go. We've got 5 conferences to preview. MAC, Ivy League, NEC, America East, Patriot League. For each of those conferences, we have a special guest that we have conducted an interview with that we will play, and then we will talk about the conference. Those guests are Ethan Roberts from Penn, Anquan Hill from Sacred Heart, John Becker from Vermont, Matt Langle from Colgate, and Ted Hodling from the University of New Haven. After we play the interviews, we will talk about each team in the league at varying lengths. We'll probably talk about each league at varying lengths, depending on how much we have to say about each team. We will have for you who we think is going to win each league. We'll have players of the year. We will have some guys to watch out for as well that you may not have heard of. So this is your ultimate sicko episode of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. It's so sicko that not even Jonathan is on the show. I can do the Missouri Valley preview with him, kind of. But I don't think he would be able to do this one quite the way Tanner can.
Yeah, but I live for this. I live for the lowest of the low majors. I can't wait to talk NEC, the worst conference in college basketball. But yeah. LIU's got some fun players, but that's just a little foreshadowing.
Yeah. So before we get started, make sure that you are following Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter to make sure that you don't miss any time we go live at BBBCBB Podcast on Twitter, Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers on YouTube, at BBBCBB Podcast on Twitch. Make sure you are following Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers on Instagram, on TikTok, at BBBCBB Podcast, in case we get the urge to start posting some content on there. And as always, make sure you are following Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, because that is the way to listen to us. If you miss it, you could also go back, watch it on YouTube. You could also go back, watch it on Twitter. If it's within the last 7 days, you can go back and watch it on Twitch. Make sure to be active in the comments if you want to. If you are in here, let me know. We are very glad that you guys are watching as well. And one more thing, we have just 1 week, almost exactly, until our final pod before the regular season starts. We will be bringing on Jack Church to talk about women's basketball and Matthew Winnick to preview opening night on our Christmas Eve special. It's going to be cut down tremendously this year. We're not going to do the 4-hour show that we used to do on Christmas Eve, but it's going to be a good one. Tanner, are you ready?
Let's do it, man.
Here is our interview with Ethan Roberts from Penn. I actually have to pull it up quickly.
Super nice guy. Really enjoyed talking to him.
Great guy. I was really excited about that one. If you'll just give me a minute to pull it up. These interviews are range from about 5 to 8 minutes long. So they're not crazy, and we're excited for you to be able to watch them. Video file. Here we go. Welcome back to the Northeast preview on Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. Sam Fetterman with Tanner McGrath. We've covered a couple of leagues. Now it's time to talk Ivy League, and we are joined by Ethan Roberts from Penn. Ethan, how you doing?
Great. I appreciate you guys having me.
So we know you were really excited when Fran got the job. You were tweeting about it. You were posting on your Instagram story. You basically made it known that this was something you really wanted. What was it about Fran that made his hire something you were so excited about? And have you gotten more excited as you've started to be in the gym with him? And why would that be?
Yeah, well, I was just really excited to just because I've always wanted to play for Fran, even in high school, and I wasn't recruited by a ton of people. They'd always be like, "You should go play for a guy like Fran McCaffrey." So it's kind of just a crazy circle moment for me. And yeah, I've absolutely gotten more excited as time's gone on. He's probably my favorite coach ever already. But yeah, I was just hyped. Like, he's just a player's coach, and everybody has great things to say about him. And of course, like, there's a lot of great coaches out there. I'm just excited to be with a coach who has such a great record, success, and someone who can really just better me as a player. So I was really, really excited to hear that we have a Penn grad coming back too. So yeah, there was just a ton of things I loved about the Coach Fran hire. Still certainly hyped about it.
Has there been something that has kind of surprised you about the way he operates in the gym?
I think for other people would be like how he's just such a good teacher. I think that's certainly something that jumped out to me immediately, which is how he breaks down the game and kind of wants you to see the game as he sees it. Yeah, so I'd say that.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, I mean, at first I heard and saw that he's kind of a fiery guy. I guess an example is like, you'd think he yells a ton in practice, right? He's super like a loud yeller, but he's not. He really he'll call time and literally teach like a teacher in class. I guess that's the best example I could give you guys. And that was kind of shocking to me a little bit, I guess I could say.
Saves the death stare for the officials. I like that. Tanner?
Yeah. Hey, Ethan. So something about Fran. Fran likes to play fast, and I think faster than perhaps some or many of your past coaches. I'm wondering if you're having any issues adjusting to the new pace of play, or if you enjoy playing faster more.
Yeah, no, I love it. He just, anytime you can throw it ahead, that's what he wants. And as naturally, when there's an open guy, I throw it ahead too. We've kind of gone into his system seamlessly. It's an easy way to play basketball. It feels like the natural one, honestly, once he kind of instills it in you. Yeah, of course, when you get a new offense, there could be turnover issues and things like that. So we've had to work through those kinks. But yeah, it's really an easy thing to pick up, I would say, that feels natural and feels like kind of crazy or out of this world.
And then, of course, when you have a great teacher like Fran, it's probably a lot easier to pick it up. Yeah. I have one kind of weird technical question, but something I've always wanted to ask someone who plays in the Ivy. Do you like the Friday, Saturday back-to-back conference schedule, or do you find it challenging or demanding?
Yeah, I'm still not sure how to feel about it, honestly. It was kind of daunting when I came to the Ivy League and you play back-to-back. Still not sure how I feel about it, honestly, Tanner. I'm not sure. I think just knocking out 2 games in a weekend can be convenient at times to rest through the week. However, when you have injuries amongst some other things, it definitely complicates things.
Yeah, getting up off the mat on a Saturday night after already playing on Fridays is tough.
Right. I do hate the fact that you can't fly in the Ivy League, especially, when we play Cornell at Cornell and then we drive and you get back to go to NYC for Columbia and it's like 1:30 in the morning, and then you got to film, other things like that. So yeah, it definitely complicates things at times. I'll say that.
Sure. Sam?
Something that Jonathan, my usual co-host, would kill me if I didn't ask. You're a Chicago guy. This league is full of Chicago guys. Jake Fegan, Cooper Nord, Jackson Monroe. Last year, John Poulikitis and Caden Pierce.
Yeah.
Playing against guys that you grew up playing against at this high a level. How cool is that? And what is kind of the one Chicago guy that you kind of enjoy playing against the most?
Well, it is really cool. It's cool to see guys from your area have so much success, and it's a crazy pipeline. Kind of like you mentioned, there's tons of guys in the Ivy League. Even my 2 teammates, 3, AJ Levine, Dalton Scantlebury, and then 4, bro, Peyton Kamen, and then who am I forgetting? Nick Polanowski. So we got 4 on our team. But my favorite one to play against, I'm not sure, dude. That's a hard question. I think it just excites like the competition a little bit more, makes it mean a little more, especially when you go back in the summers and you work out with all the guys, or do open runs with them, So it's pretty competitive.
So you guys obviously kind of have a lot of guys that are back from last year, but also a lot of things that we're still kind of waiting to see. TJ obviously dealing with some injuries right now. But what about this Penn team? Is there a player that you think can surprise people this year and kind of help elevate this team?
Yeah. Well, I would just say I'm excited about our team overall. I think Lucas Luth, AJ Levine, we got a new just excitement to us overall. It's hard to really pick one. But I guess I would go with Lucas Luth. Yeah, I think he's going to surprise people. He's really skilled. He's a really good player, and I just feel like we got a lot of those. I really do. And as we keep growing, it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting. France is great for us. This system is great for us. It meshes. It allows people to mesh really quickly. And just as we iron things out, I'm just excited to see our final product when it's time to really go in Ivy.
All right. Thank you so much, Ethan. More on the Ivy League after this. All right. Thank you to Ethan Roberts and Mike Mahoney for helping set that up. What were your kind of main takeaways from our talk with Ethan?
That he's a really nice kid, first of all. Second of all, I like what he said the most about Fran's offense and how it's really easy to pick up and allows people to mesh together really well. Because one thing that I've learned or taken away from talking to coaches this cycle and last preseason, every coach is trying to play faster. Everyone wants to play faster. And I think the reason why is because it's a player-friendly system, more or less. So I think that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I also think it's easier to score playing faster. But if we're going to talk Ivy League, we're going to have to start with Yale. They're the clear favorite in this Ivy League by like a wide margin. I think that out of the 5 leagues, this one, and honestly, I think 3 of them have pretty clear favorites. But Yale might be the clearest favorite of all of them. It's not just what Yale brings back. It's kind of what the rest of the league doesn't bring back. But I want to talk about what the Bulldogs do bring back. And I've kind of mentioned this on a lot of podcasts. My hot take about Yale this year is that I'm not sure Nick Townsend is like the best player if this team's ceiling hits its ceiling. I think it's Casey Simmons. Okay. I think we saw a lot of Casey Simmons moments last year where he looked like the most talented player on the floor. He's really athletic. He's long, 6'7", about 190 pounds. He can run. He can block shots. He can steal the ball. Gets in passing lanes. We saw a little bit of him shooting. We saw like flashes of it. If we can bottle that up and see a little more of that from Simmons this year, we could be looking at one of the best players in the Ivy League. And that's obviously next to Nick Townsend, who's a 15-point-a-game guy. Sam Alatan, who's out of these 5 leagues, I would argue the single best rim protector. Unless you can think of one better, I think out of the 5 leagues, he's clearly the best. Isaac Seliskar had a fantastic freshman year last year coming off the bench. The concern is the point guard spot for this team. Are you in on Trevor Mullen, or does it not really matter?
I mean, I think the biggest question is the backcourt in general. I also think there are some shooting questions in the backcourt. Like I think Mullen and Fox really need to pick it up in that department.
I think Fox can like make it rain.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but there's shooting that needs to be replicated. I think the bigger question you can ask is who replaces Mabeng as like the primary ball handler, right? Because I mean, Yale, they're going to run the James Jones motion. And so it's all about just like post feeds and then working inside out. So I think you just need someone to like put the ball in the right spot. I think Mullen can do that. I wonder if you think Casey Simmons is going to have a breakout year, if you think he can play on ball.
A little bit. I don't think it's going to be like a lot on ball. I think it's going to be like mostly slashing and a little bit of creating. I think Seliskar is a little more of an on-ball threat than Simmons at the moment.
Sure.
We saw a little bit of it. He obviously had the game winner against UPenn that Ethan Roberts probably remembers very well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember last year there was a little bit of Mullen hype, and I had a little bit of Mullen hype, and it just didn't really ever happen for him. You know who would have been like a perfect ad for this team is Nolan Groves, who they had committed before he decommitted and went to Texas Tech, Minnesota, Mr. Basketball. He would be a perfect fit to add shooting and scoring to this team. I think now without him, you're going to be asking a lot out of Riley Fox. But I don't think this really matters in the Ivy League with the amount of talent on display in this league. I think we're looking at a team that is just talent-wise head and shoulders above the rest of this league, especially with Caden Pierce not playing. with the Xavier Lee transferring out of Princeton. So Princeton is going to be down this year. We'll get into that with Brown losing a bunch, Cornell losing a bunch. There's a lot of teams that lost a lot. Yale obviously loses. Yale, I remember I mentioned this, and I don't think we gave it enough like airtime on the podcast last year, talking about just how special that senior class was for Yale last year with John Poulikitis and Bezin Bang. Those two guys, Yale's most successful senior class, 45-11 in the Ivy League, 2 regular season titles, 3 NCAA tournament bids, and NCAA tournament win. They were, without a doubt, the best senior class in Yale basketball history.
Yeah, but I mean, if you focus on just like what Yale brings back, it's the league's best front court, arguably the league's best coach, the league's best offensive system.
I would say definitely the league's best coach.
Yeah, I mean,
especially from the questions that have arisen about Mitch Henderson with the way that Princeton played last year. I still think Mitch is a tremendous coach, but I think they just didn't play like a well-coached team last year. Yale has never really had years like that under James in the last however long.
No, he just, the floor is just so
I
high.
I thought that Yale could give A&M a run for their money, and there were moments that they did. That was one of Bez and Bang's worst games of the year, and they were in it pretty late. But A&M was just a little too much. A&M killed them on the glass. Didn't kill them on the glass as much as they would kill other mid-major teams, but they still won on the glass, and Yale still had it as a game pretty late. But they didn't get enough from their 2 best players in that game. And I think that's kind of the thing that won't really make a difference against Princeton or Penn or Brown, but it'll make a difference in Yale's NCAA tournament games should they get there. I think they're clearly the most talented team in the league. I think they're clearly right now the best coached team in the league. I think that they are clearly one of the it programs in the Northeast. We're talking about programs that have been just super consistent through the years. They don't have as many of like the really difficult games this year. They do play.
They play Vermont.
Yeah, they do play Vermont. They don't play like they had Purdue last year, but they also had Minnesota. I think they only have 1 high major game this year, and it's Alabama. It's still a good game. I believe they also go to Loyola because they played. Loyola. No, wait, I was thinking of Princeton. I got that one wrong. Just mixed that up. Yeah. So they play Alabama this year. They play home against UIC, not Loyola.
Right. Yeah.
But
I mean, my only big.
I look at that Yale schedule and I see like a team that can really they'll make some serious noise. Yeah.
I mean, my only big concern is I think that there's a lot of youth and inexperience in kind of the depth. The depth is very young. I think that there's in both the front court and the back court, just the rotation in general. I think you're going to need young guys to step into bigger roles. And that's where I think some snags can happen, especially in the non-conference. But I think by the time conference play rolls around, I mean, just the talent's going to outshine everyone, and Townsend and Alatan are going to be, the best front court in the league. So
yeah, I think Yale should also mention they are going to Paradise Jam where they will play. But there's no high major teams in Paradise Jam. It's a fun mid-major tournament. Iona's there. Akron is the pick to win the MAC for most teams. Oregon State is a fun team. Charleston's obviously a fun team. UMass has some energy after their performance against Brown that we'll get into a little bit later. Definitely excited for Yale this year. Definitely think there's a lot of winnable games though on this schedule.
And James Jones wins.
Yeah, really excited for the Bulldogs this year. Who do you want to talk about next?
Cornell's my second power rated team in the conference.
Okay. I don't have a full Ivy power ranking because I don't really know how I would do it. But for Cornell, the key for me is you need to find playmaking because your 2 returning stars, Fegan and Nord, are not ball handlers in any way. Your key ball handlers last year, Naz Williams, and then in the front court, you had A.K. Okereke and Guy Ragland. 3 guys that all were really good playmakers from different spots. And you also had Ryan Hiachan, who was a tremendous passer from the 5. So now you're asking Jacob Beckles, you're asking Demarion Fishburne, Josh Baldwin, DJ Nix. DJ Nix does not have a ton of playmaking chops from what we've seen so far. Maybe a little bit of Anthony Namani. I don't know who's going to step up for this team and be that. Casper Sepp also comes in from Valpo, another guy that's going to add a little bit to the front court. But I think the front court has just so much less talent than last year in terms of the playmaking that we're going to really need to see massive steps forward. Maybe AJ LeBeau can make a jump, and I'm not putting it against them because like we've seen Cornell kind of have players make like huge jumps from year 1 to year 2 or year 2 to year 3. We saw Fegan kind of take a jump from year 1 to year 2. Nord did the same thing, but can the playmakers do the same? And we saw Okereke took his jumps as well. Can they kind of make the next AK Okereke?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind, Jacob as a playmaker. And in the end, this is a transition heavy, 3-point heavy attack. Like they're going to run on you and they're going to shoot on you. And I think that the system in place set up by, Coach Jocks is so good. I mean, they led the nation in 2-point shooting last year.
Yeah.
They led everyone. Yeah. It's just,
they do it every year.
Yeah. It's just cutting and then they create open threes.
There's just so much space in paint because of how many guys have to be sent to guard the 3-point line.
And I think the spacing will be very good again. I mean, the top 8 or 9 guys are all capable shooters. I mean, my big question is, yes, they did lose their 2 best players, and that's why they're not, up there with Yale. But I think the defense will probably be bad again. I mean, they extend pressure, and they just don't, like you said, like the front court it lacks talent, right? They don't have any rim protection either. So if anyone gets past the pressure, I think it's going to be, cooked chicken. So
I'm with you on that. I think that we're really, but the thing about Cornell that I like, I went to their practice a couple weeks ago. Their practices are harder than the games just for the way that they go. Because in their practice, it's 2 teams running at each other in the entire time. It's a lot of transition work. It's a lot of the 5-on-4 on 3-on-2 on ones where you go down the floor with 2-on-1, then it's 3-on-2, then it's 4-on-3. There's a lot of that, and it's just running and running and running. There's pressing, there's pressure, there's situations, and I think they do a really good job of kind of drilling into these guys that, hey, we need to be a better conditioned team in order to make this work. I think talent-wise, though, they are at a severe deficit to what they had last year.
And I mean, to your point,
it does work. Look, the Ivy League as a whole is at a severe deficit talent-wise to where it was last year. So I could see Cornell finishing second. I could see anyone finishing second, really. Yeah,
and I mean, look, to your point, they focus on 5-on-4s, 4-on-3s in transition, and then they're really good in transition every year. And they try to use that pressure to turn defense into offense. I think the talent's going to show up on the talent deficiency is going to show up on the defensive end. It's going to show up at the rim, trying to protect the rim. So I think it's going to be a lot of shootouts, and that'll be fun every single game. But I think they finished second behind Yale in when it all is said and done.
I want to talk about Harvard. I'm not sure if I would have them second, but I definitely want to talk about them because outside of Yale, they probably return the most interesting pieces.
Well, they return the most minutes in the conference.
Yeah.
By a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I would say that starts with Rob Hinton, who is one of the candidates for Player of the Year. Was a freshman last year, and it felt like he got over the freshman wall that kind of was getting into him in the middle of the year. He had some really big games late in the year, and I thought it was really impressive the way that he kind of closed out. Had the 31-point performance against Princeton, 22 against Penn. Gets to the line a ton for a kid like that. Good size, gets to the basket. He's probably going to be the point guard this year. They had Evan Nelson last year, who's now at Arizona, was their point guard. Hinton's probably going to be their point guard this year. I think he can do it.
Yeah, he's a decent playmaker. I mean, a little bit of what was annoying about the Harvard offense last year was that not enough easy buckets came, and it just kind of devolved into tough jump shots. They relied too much on tough shot making. And I wonder if Hinton with another step forward, and maybe if he's running, he has the keys to the spread motion attack, if they can maybe invert the floor a little bit more, throw your forwards up, and then everything will come a little bit easier, as opposed to just they got no offensive rebounds. They didn't Hinton got to the line a decent amount, but they didn't get to the line as a team that much. and it was just about making shots, and that led to high variance night to night. It was very inconsistent. But that's the question: is can this this squad has a lot of continuity? Can they all improve in the scheme? And Tommy Amaker is a great coach. So
I also want to say, I like Amaker had a lot of really good years, but he's also been leading one of the programs that has not been to Ivy Madness in a long time. This has not been one of the better Ivy League programs over the last 5-6 years. They have not made Ivy Madness since I believe the COVID year they were going to, and the year before in 2019 they made it and were an NIT team. They have not made it in the last now 4 seasons. So that's a full senior class that never made Ivy Madness. I think they're more talented this year than they have been in the last couple of years because of Hinton taking a step forward. It's not like I thought they were not talented a couple of years ago when they had Malik Mack and Ajabor and Chizome, all 3 guys that have played at a higher level. But I think they're really talented this year as well. Austin Hunt is a guy that I'm big on. Had some really good moments his freshman year. Only played in 18 games, but had some fun ones within that. Finished the year pretty strong. I think
Chandler's great, man.
Yeah, I think Chandler PJ is a good player.
He's super versatile at the guard position, a borderline elite defender in my mind. He grabs tons of rebounds. I mean, if you want to put the ball in his hands,
yeah, he's strong.
Yeah.
And then Batiste kind of really took a step forward last year. Was a little bit confused as to like how he was going to get better going into this year. Became a much better rim protector. Became a much better shooter.
Became a much better ball mover and cutter too in the motion offense.
Yeah, I think
like you can you can move, you can play through him more, and I think he works well. He's a guy that you can invert the floor with.
Batiste had a lot of moments last year, and I think he's a good player. Definitely do have questions about the 5 spot. If Batiste might be the 5, if not, then what are you going to do around him?
Yeah, and they rim funnel too, and that's kind of like that's sort of what did them in last year.
I don't know if
the interior defense was a problem. It could be.
Yeah, they didn't foul guys, but they just didn't have a ton of deterrence. Batiste blocked shots, but was kind of blocking shots because there were a lot of shots.
Yeah, and I think that'll probably be the case again, but I do think the offense. I think hopefully improvements would outweigh the poor defensive play. I think they make the turn. I think they make Ivy Madness.
Of like getting Hunt back and getting Hunt playing like starter minutes and like big minutes again is you're going to get I want to see him take a step forward drawing fouls, because this was a team that really struggled to get to the line last year. It was really Hinton and nobody else really got to the line. Sometimes Lesmont, sometimes Batiste, but it was really mostly just Hinton getting to the line.
They also struggled with turnovers. I mean, that's got to be something that you.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to struggle with turnovers. I think that's just going to be a thing that's going to happen for them. Nelson was their point guard and struggled with turnovers last year.
Yeah.
I just think that's something that we're gonna see. They were 7th in turnovers the year before when Malik Mack was their point guard. They were 6th in turnovers when they had Ledlum and Treatu and Nelson a couple years back. So I think that the turnovers are just going to be something that this team's going to have to play through.
Yeah, and I mean, that comes down to who do you trust with the ball in their hands, right? You're asking who's going to be the point guard, who's going to run the offense. Well, all of these guys are maybe capable. It doesn't seem like any one of them is a pure point guard ball handler type. And I think in the end, you want the ball in Hinton's hands. He's one of the most talented players in the conference. He should lead your offense. He should set the table. He should score. He should get to the line. I just wish that you could play him a little bit more off ball, but maybe you can't.
Okay, then I want to talk Princeton as well.
Let's do it.
Last year, Dalen Davis took a real step back in conference play. He had a 97 offensive rating season long. He had an 82 offensive rating in conference play. It was bad. He's got to be. I'm not sure who's going to be the best player for this team. It might have to be him. Might have to be someone else. But if this team's going to be good, Dalen Davis has to be good.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm pretty down on this team. I think they're young. I think they're inexperienced. I think that there's no, like, you're right. Like Dalen Davis is your guy, but even him, like there are tons. The backcourt minutes are wide open. Tons of young players are fighting for minutes. I think the system should keep the offensive floor somewhat high. I like CJ Happy, but
Happy's fun.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to be a challenge. This roster is just.
I have like an
here.
interesting take on Princeton, where like maybe, just maybe, like kind of a reset of system, like getting away from the ISO ball that they had with Xavier and Caden last year. Kind of it felt like a 2-man game for the most part with Xavier and Caden, and really a 1-man game with Xavier when Caden wasn't playing well, which happened a lot over the course of conference play because he got injured in the Akron game and played through it the rest of the year. I think that's something that a lot of people kind of missed about Princeton last year. Was part of the reason that they struggled in conference play was because Caden was playing hurt. But maybe just kind of getting away from the ISO ball that they started to run a lot more the last couple of years, and kind of getting back to what made Princeton for a long time.
The Princeton motion.
Yeah, can help them.
Yeah. Spread the floor a little bit more.
Yeah, because so much of their offense the last 2 years was Xavier's going to chuck a 3 and we're gonna hope, or Xavier's going to dribble drive and we're going to hope.
Yeah, it seemed like they were out talenting people instead of out executing them, which is
that's not Princeton basketball.
It's not Henderson ball. Yeah.
So I wonder if kind of going away from that is going to be maybe just like a reset positive. It might not be. It might not be, because I think the talent level on this team is definitely a lot lower than it was last year. Happy has to take a step. Abdullahi and Stanton have some interesting traits as well. I know Landon Clark has some good size and can play a little perimeter.
These are all guys that have good rate stats, like per minute stats, but haven't stepped up and played a lot of minutes. I think.
Like I just remember thinking like the kind of when Princeton benched Xavier Lee in the second half against Yale last year at home, and they almost made that comeback. Like that was like Jack Stanton comes up huge. CJ Happy's in the game in big moments. And it kind of made me think about maybe Princeton just kind of needed a jolt of something to come off the bench and give them some energy. They were not a very deep team 2 years ago, and their starters, I don't think, were as good 1 through 5 last year as they were 2 years ago. So they played a little bit deeper, but I don't think they were particularly that much deeper, actually. And this team, overall talent-wise, definitely lower than it was last year.
The sum of the parts could be greater, though, is what you're.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be. I think just overall, as a league, the Ivy League is going to be a little down from where it was last year.
Sure, but it was really good. Last 2 years, it's been really good.
2 years ago, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Last year, it was good. This year, I think it's going to be down from that. So I don't know if they need to be. I don't know if they're going to need to be 177, which is what they were last year in KenPom, to make Ivy Madness. We'll have to see.
I have them 182, and I have them 5th in the conference.
Yeah, I don't have like power ratings for the entire country, like it seems like you do.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I mean, they're a borderline top 14.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be in the mix, because you're never going to count Princeton out.
And you're never going to count Henderson out. And again, the system, the offensive floor is high, and they're going to spread the ball. They're going to share the ball. And there is like 5 decent contributors coming back that have run all of the Princeton stuff before. Like, they're not going to be miserable, but the talent level is down. It's not the Princeton that made the Sweet 16.
Yeah. And it's not the Princeton that went 24-5 the year after they made the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Let's talk Dartmouth. Had the best year in a very long time last year. Made Ivy Madness 14-14 overall, 8-6 in Ivy League play, started 6-3, gave themselves a lot of cushion going into those last couple games to get in. You obviously lose Ryan Cornish, you lose Kate Haskins, you lose Romeo Myrtle, but you bring back Brandon Mitchell-Day and Jackson Monroe, who is probably the top challenger to Yale for best front court in the conference.
Yep.
And then you bring back Connor Amundsen, you bring back Jaden Williams, you bring back a bunch of other guys as well that kind of need to take steps forward, like Cam McNamee, Ben Brown, and Kareem Thomas. I definitely think that this team will probably take a step back from last year in terms of in terms of like how dominant they were at times during Ivy League play. They were blowing some teams out. But I think they have every chance to make Ivy Madness in a down Ivy League this year.
I mean, my big question with Dartmouth is, all right, so first of all, the new offense that they put in place last year was brilliant. They actually pushed the pace. They actually
will also say Rich Gleason, who was the coach who put that in, moved on.
Yeah, and that's another problem too, right? But like, and another thing is
I'm kind of the thought that like he gave them the blueprint, and I think they can, for the most part, figure it out. But we'll have to see.
Well, I think that yes, but the strength of your team now moves from like Cornish. Like I thought Cornish was amazing, and kind of a perimeter-based attack to now the interior, right, where you want to run everything through Mitchell-Day, who's clearly the best player on this roster, who I think can score from really good in ISO play from the mid post, and Monroe is kind of good too. And now I think you have some shooting concerns. I think you have some floor spacing concerns. I think you have some backcourt concerns. So the question is, can you run the same offense that made Dartmouth so good when you have such a different roster makeup? And can you play as fast? Can you shoot as many threes? Or is it just going to turn into old Dartmouth ball? And I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I like the point guard a bit. What's his name? Connor. Yeah. But he's not Ryan Cornish. And the pieces next to him in the backcourt are largely unproven and not great shooters. So that's the big question to me, is if they can do the same thing. But Mitchell-Day is going to be a dark horse candidate for Ivy Player of the Year.
Oh,
I think he's going to have a huge year.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
let's move on. Want to quickly hit on the rest of the league. Brown.
Yep.
Landon Lewis is back. Another candidate for Player of the Year probably in the league. Bring a bunch of guys back as well with Risby Jefferson, Dabo, Lesbert. They're going to need steps forward from Uche Diuno or Jenkins in the backcourt. I think they have two freshmen that I think are interesting, in Brady Laughlin and Isaiah Langham. I think both will find a way to make an impact this year. What do you think of Brown?
I think they're going to go 500 in league play. I think they're going to be physical defense, elite in transition denial. I think they'll extend full court pressure. Offensively, I think they are doomed without Keno. I don't know how they score. So I think they'll out physical their way to 6 or 8 wins.
Yeah, they really need big steps forward from that backcourt.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about Penn earlier with Ethan. Just a little more to kind of go slightly deeper in. TJ Pollard obviously dealing with a little bit of an injury right now, so we don't know when he'll be back. And I think that's kind of a blow, because I thought that was a really good fit for Penn. But if Lucas Luth can kind of be the type of guy that Ethan was hinting at, that he's going to be a good player for them, I think that's really big. I still have the same kind of concerns as I did last year with the defense. I don't think that this is going to be a very good defensive team. Steve Donahue did not have a great defenses. Fran McCaffrey is not known for defenses either. I think that kind of the ceiling for this Penn team is pretty high, considering like
Fran and Roberts.
Yeah, and they have a guy who's going to score at a really high level in Ethan Roberts. There's some guys. I know Jonathan wants me to mention Peyton Kamen as well. Some good players coming in. Wonder if AJ Levine is able to take a step forward, or Dylan Williams. I'm very, very curious to see the William Cruz, the Norwegian big man, what he brings to the table. But for the most part, I think that this team probably ends up going as far as Roberts can take them.
I think this is probably unfortunately the worst team in the Ivy. I think it's Roberts who will score 1,000,000 points as the number one option in a Fran McCaffrey offense, and then his complementary pieces are just the front court talent is poor, the point guard play is poor. And
there's a lot. There's a lot that we don't know. That's kind of what I'll go with.
Yeah.
I think the ceiling is high, but maybe not like super high.
Yeah.
But again, really anything 2 through 8 in this league, I can see going in a lot of directions. And then Columbia, the last team with new coach Kevin Hovde, the other new coach in the league, some more new blood in a conference that's really lacked it. A lot of returning guys, Avery Brown, Kenny Nolan, Blair Thompson, Zinedine Bedry. All those guys are back. They're now seniors. They were not recruited to play for Hovde's system, but they were recruited back into it because they all did hit the portal at one point, and Hovde was able to bring them back. I'm definitely a little bit intrigued by some of the transfers. They were able to bring in Hampton Sanders from NYU, Leland Coleman, Ryan Sulis as well. Definitely think, though, that they're probably a step behind most of the league because kind of in a similar way to Penn, a lot of the guys that were recruited to play for this program were recruited to play for a different coach, for a different system. And you don't really have that in as many places in college basketball anymore. And you especially don't have that in the Ivy League where the coaches have been around for so long. And I mean, even though there's a lot of returning guys, they were good when Geronimo Rubio de la Rosa was healthy. They were bad when he was not.
He built the Florida offense.
I mean, I think schematically it'll be really good.
Oh, I think they're going to improve immensely on the offensive end. I think it's going to be like an up-tempo spread P&R. I think Kenny Nolan is an elite ball screen manipulator who can be the engine of the offense. I think that Ritter and Solis are good rollers and divers. I think defense is going to be pretty bad. I think the improvements on offense will outweigh the lags on defense, but this is a bunch of returning players from a defense that was bad last year. Hovde's kind of an offensive mind coach, and not a lot of length. I think that it's probably fair to slot the two new coaches in at 7 and 8 in terms of the power rankings for this league, but I could see them finishing a lot higher because there's upside with new coaches. Absolutely. Yep. The Ivy will be interesting.
We both agree on Yale to win the league. Obviously.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Let's go America East, and we are going to have our interview with John Becker. Welcome back to Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Steelers Northeast Preview. I'm Sam Fetterman with Tanner McGrath, and we now have John Becker, the head coach of the Vermont Catamounts, on the pod. Coach, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
So I want to get started in here. In a league where it feels like there's a ton of turnover, you guys return a couple key guys on the wing in TJ Long and TJ Hurley. How important has it been for those guys to be back within the context of your team, but also within the context of the league itself?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really fortunate to get both those guys back. They obviously could have moved on and both wanted to end their career here at Vermont. So we appreciate that a lot. And, it really helped shape our off season where we're able to try to build a roster around those two guys. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. And, those two guys are probably why we're picked by the coaches to win the league, just because, like you said, there's just so much turnover in our league this year. So they've been great. It's great to have TJ Long back and healthy. Obviously missed basically all of last season. So I'm happy for him. And, those two guys have been great.
And kind of how has TJ Long come along with recovering from injury, as you're mentioning?
Yeah, I mean, after the season, he finally had that knee scope down in New York, and so he missed a better part of the summer recovering from that. But he's feeling really good. He's playing well. He's been in every practice, and He's definitely got his rhythm back. And so he's doing really well, knock on wood.
I also wanted to ask you about Lucas. Lucas Mari comes in from Spain. What was the process of recruiting him? How did you guys discover him? And what role do you think he can play for you guys? What's the ceiling?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of was one of those deals where we got in contact with his agent, and our staff did a good job of developing a relationship. And Lucas was initially being targeted by high major programs, and they were struggling to find a good fit for him as far as what his role would be. And so as we developed a relationship with some agents over there, his name came up, and we had a really good opportunity for him here. And so it just kind of came together like that. And so that was great. And as far as a player, he wasn't here this summer. He's playing on national teams over in Spain. So there's an adjustment. I mean, he's a 19-year-old kid and coming to the States, and big guard, kind of reminds me of Robin Duncan, who we had, who graduated a few years back, and with his vision, with his size, you know. Uh, his ceiling is really, really high. And he's just a young player figuring it out. But he's going to be a big part of this year's team.
Tanner.
Yeah, I had just two questions. Positive question, slightly negative question. Start positive.
Okay.
Offense was a bit of a struggle for you guys last year, but it seems like that's bound to turn around with the new roster, arguably improved roster on that end. But what's going to be the biggest difference on that end this year compared to last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the semifinal game against Maine, where Shamir and TJ Long were out, put a lot of pressure on TJ Hurley. And so we wanted to get him help. Obviously, getting TJ Long back was a huge first step, but we wanted to make sure we had depth. We had more shooting. Last few years, we've shot a lot of threes. And so, I wanted to get a back to the basket big, or a couple of them, so we can have a little bit more balance on the offensive end. And so I think through the portal and we addressed those things. And so I think we'll be a much more balanced and deeper offensive team.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, when it comes to losing Shamir, you also lost O'Leary. And defense has not been a struggle for you guys over the past few years, but you had two all-time elite defenders bookending your lineup. I have to think, your defense could regress, but how do you plan on combating potential regression on that end of the court?
Yeah, I mean, you're right with Shamir, O'Leary, and even Sami Alamutu, who transferred. I mean, we lost some really, really high-end individual defenders, team defenders. And so our defense has always been a team defense. And so, I think that's going to help a lot. And then we brought in three big guards, Trey Woodyard, Lucas, who we just mentioned, and Jackson Skipper. And so, some big, rangy, kind of versatile defenders. So I think that's going to be, allow us to switch more and do some of that stuff. And then with David Simon, we have a legitimate rim protector. And so, yeah, I think the thing we've had over the years is great point of attack defenders, and with Shamir and Finn Sullivan and Robin Duncan, and so it's going to be really important. Sean Blake's development and growth. I think he has the potential to be a really good defender, and so he's going to be important on both ends of the court, obviously. But that point of attack defender that can kind of navigate that first action, that first ball screen, or whatever it may be, has been really, really good to us. And so we've got we've got to develop someone that can provide that. And hopefully it's Sean, or the freshman Momo has been really impressive. And so and then our size, our overall positional size, I think will be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Coach, you mentioned Trey as a guy who's been in this league before. How do you think that kind of helps coming over as a guy who's seen the league? I know some coaches really value that. Some coaches maybe not as much as just it being college basketball experience.
Yeah, no, he's been great. And yeah, playing at UNH, I think that all that helps just being familiar with the travel, being familiar with the, opposing gyms and the players in the league. And he's been terrific. He really is like a connector. He really is unselfish, cares about just winning, and so play any position. He'll play point guard for us this year. He'll play the 4 and everything in between. And he's, there's a skill to those guys that just move the ball from one side of the court to the other. And, I think, I know he's done a great job and he's really versatile and I got to just, now we have games coming up. I got to start figuring out how to deploy all these guys.
All right. Thank you, Coach, so much for your time. More on the America East right after this. Thank you for listening to that one. We're back here for more America East talk. Let's kind of keep going on Vermont. Tanner, this is your team. This is your league. I'm going to let you kind of take the reins here and kind of direct this conversation.
Sure. Let's start with Vermont. And the thing about Vermont is that similar to Yale in the Ivy, Vermont seems to be kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the league just because of what the rest of the league lost, right? Bryant lost head coach and the entire roster from that dominant team. UMass Lowell graduated every single important contributor. Maine lost its 2 best backcourt pieces. UMBC is probably the one team that returns anything at all. Now, so for Vermont, there's 2 sides of the coin here, right? The first side is that the last 2 years, especially last year, offense was just dreadful. It was dreadful because they were running a 5-out motion offense with one guy that could hit a 3-pointer in TJ Hurley, who played unbelievably and very admirably. And
he was awesome.
Yes, the toughest shot maker in the conference and one of my favorite players over the past few years. But eventually, the spacing and the shot making, it was just too miserable, and the offense just shriveled. Now, this year, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that's going to flip because there are just so many more shot makers on this roster. I mean, first of all, you bring back Hurley, who is an amazing 3-level scorer. You get back TJ Long, who is a proven shot maker from deep, a guy you can put in the corner above the break. But on top of that, you bring back Jackson Skipper, who's a decent shooter. Trey Woodyard I'm the biggest Trey Woodyard stan. I think he's the most underrated player in the America East. A fantastic connector piece, like Becker described him. Really high playmaking skills. Can score from all 3 levels. But you also, David Simon can hit a few shots at the 5. And then, of course, the big unknown is Lucas Mari, who's known as a guy who can spray the ball around the court, find all these guys. He's a big guard with elite passing vision, really good in ball screens. And I can just see him spraying the ball around to Long, Hurley, Skipper, whoever plays the 4, whoever plays the 5. And the other piece of this is if Gus Yalden pans out. One thing that
I think that's a good fit for him, by the way.
Really good fit. But another thing that has really bothered the Vermont offenses the past 2 years is that they have not had an Anthony Lamb or a Ryan Davis or a Taylor Coppenrath, someone down low.
Those guys don't come around every day.
I know, but they had 0 low post playmaking last year, and O'Leary was fine, but that allowed the defense to kind of extend up and mess up your perimeter spacing, and they had no recourse, right? So it resulted in a lot of Dylan Penn and Shamir Bogues becoming post-up guards. Now, if Yalden pans out, or even if Simon pans out a little bit, I think Yalden's the guy with the real back-to-the-basket low post scoring moves. That opens up the offense even more, and then all of a sudden you're going back to, the offenses of 5 years ago. The defense is going to regress, I think, markedly without Shamir, who was the best point of attack defender
without probably the 2 best defensive players in the conference.
Yes, and then O'Leary, who I thought was the best defender over the past 2 years in the America East. I mean, the key is they tried to do different things on defensive end last year in the beginning of the season. They tried running a zone, like a 2-3 pressing to try and get into some more transition sets, some more easy buckets. I don't think that'll be the case this year. Once they went back to their conservative base man-to-man, that's when they went on the 10-game winning streak. I think what you'll expect is just very conservative slight base, and they're just going to rely on their positional size because they do have good positional size. Becker loves big guards, and his backcourt is probably going to run 6'6", 6'4", 6'5". And then your front court, you got Skipper and Woodyard 6'7", 6'6". You got good. You can continue to contest catch and shoot shots on the interior while just playing base man to man, which is usually what Vermont does well. It just won't be as deadly as it was in the past. The questions really come down to lineup constructions around your front court, which is where do you put David Simon, Gus Yalden, Ben Michaels, and Noah Barnett? I don't know how you play all four of those guys, who plays where, who does what. All four bring different things to the table. There's a lot of depth here. The second is who starts at point guard. I think it'll be Sean Blake to start because he's been in the offense. He's got some real pop to his game. I think he had his moments as a ball screen facilitator. He also has a lot of drawbacks as a guy who throws the ball away a lot and doesn't play great defense. And then they've also been trying a lot of Woodyard and Woodyard and Skipper at 1. So they've been moving Woodyard and Skipper from 1 to 4 up in the lineup and just trying different things around there. So these are all good problems to have in the end for John Becker, I think. I just think offense is going to come so much easier. It's going to look like the Vermont teams in the past. And I think the offensive improvements will ultimately outweigh the defensive regression, even if it will look probably a lot worse.
That's a lot to talk about for Vermont. I have nothing to add because you've nailed all of it.
It's my team. I cover this team,
I'm kind of going to let you kind of talk about the rest of the league. I don't want to go quite as long on this league as we did on the Ivy League, but I'll talk about a team and I will add anything that I have.
Yeah, so I'll kind of break this down into 4 quick sections. Okay, so Vermont's the class. Vermont is absolutely the class. The second are, I think, my 2 sleepers. My first is UMBC. Now, UMBC returns my pick for player of the year in Josh Adunamu. I think he's going to be the engine of an ultra efficient 4-round 1 motion offense. Jim Ferry is, I believe Kempom mentioned that he was the 20th best offensive coach in the nation. Jim Ferry teams, they shoot, they pass, they score. They space the floor. There's a good amount of shooting on this roster. Devin Caesar is your guy, right?
Yeah, I think Devin Caesar in this league, he's got everything it takes to be one of the best guards, can really score, put it on the floor, score in a bunch of different ways. And next to Ace Valentine, just that duo in the backcourt, arguably most talented non-Vermont backcourt in the conference.
Oh, yeah, and Ace is just a rock-solid two-way point guard. Caesar, UMBC is a perfect fit for him because UMBC loves those tiny dribble guards that can score at all 3 levels and run their transition-based offense. Jai King from New Haven is, I think, perfect for this offense as well. I think those guys are great. I think they bring in good shooting in the backcourt with D2 transfer DJ Armstrong. One thing I think Ferry did really well, and something we'll see more of in the low major leagues, is bringing up these good D2 players, because I've seen a lot of success stories surrounding that. And I think Ferry did a really good job scouting the D2 level. So this offense with the guards and Adunwo is going to be elite. I think it's easily the second best offense in the league. It all comes down to the defense. And what was wrong with UMBC last year? No size. They were minuscule. They had a minus 250 rebounding differential, and they just allowed paint points like it was nothing. So what did they do? They went out and they got a little bit bigger on the wings. They have some better length on the wings. And then they got a real big man in D2 transfer, Jose Roberto Tonchin, who is the biggest piece for any team in the league this year. He is 6'10". He's a good two-way rebounder. He can block a few shots, and he's elite in transition. He's like 1.2 points per possession in transition. It's like 95th percentile. And he ran for a Palm Beach Atlantic team, which wasn't a slow-paced dump it down in the post type of offense. They averaged like 15 transition points per game. So if Tonchin can play big minutes at the center, all of a sudden you have a UMBC team that could fly up the defensive rankings in efficiency because they have legit size on the interior that can deter and do something. So UMBC is my sleeper in this league. I I feel okay about Binghamton.
I think for Binghamton, I like Jeremiah Quigley for this league a lot.
I think that Quigley might be the best pure point guard in the league, which is crazy to say.
I thought he was going to be a piece at Mason last year. Just kind of didn't fit with kind of the defensive centric look that they wanted. They were a really good defensive team. Quigley is a lot more offense. He's got some juice scoring wise, and I think this is a league where if you have wiggle, if you can score, you'll be able to.
Yeah, and I mean he's good too because last year, so Binghamton Level Sanders runs an intensely cut heavy rim pressure offense, and a couple years ago when they had Symir Torrance, that offense worked because you had a point guard who could run the show and hit all those cutters. Last year, they didn't have a point guard, and their turnover issue was disastrous. And everyone played admirably. I think Wes Peterson ended the year as the point guard, but they needed a point guard. Now they have one. That's going to improve immensely. I think that Wes Peterson, Demetrius Lilly, and Bryson Wilson, I think that's a front court that is imposing and will be able to be good on the defensive glass, which Sanders teams always are, and be pretty good at running that cut-heavy offense. Another team to look out for, I think, is Albany. Roster overhaul again. Like, this team always has a roster overhaul, and that's the thing about Killings is he recruits well. He brings in talented rosters, but then he mismanages them. And that's another problem for me is that, so I like the front court. Like, I like Ife West Ingram a lot, especially for this offense. I think he can be a similar scorer to DeMar Langford, not as strong, but very good at cutting rim pressure. Good, I think, defensive piece. I think Abide is a decent pick and pop stretch 4 option. And I think Okike is a pretty good defender. I don't think he's much on the offensive end. The backcourt, though, I mean, Amir Lindsay, that he's going to be a decent point guard. Like, he's going to be a fine point guard for the system. They're going to run fast. Will Richardson is your number one scoring option. Guy shot like 25% from the field last year and then got hurt. 2 years ago, he was a complete negative at Fordham, I think.
Yeah, the thing about Will is, like, I was really excited for him to take a jump from freshman to sophomore year. And it just felt like he's kind of been stuck there for the last however many years.
He's a dribble heavy guard who can't pass. He can't run the ball screens, and he doesn't put the ball in the basket. He loves to shoot first, but he's one of the most inefficient scorers I know. And so you got him and Nas Muhammad, who's a decent, like, off ball scorer, but doesn't do much else. And you've got some kind of questions in the backcourt. So that leaves West Ingram to shoulder, I think, a huge shot creation and rim pressure load. So that's kind of my thing with Albany. So you have those three teams that I think are interesting between UMBC Albany and Binghamton. Maine is very interesting to me. They're going to be somewhere in the mix. I think Chris Markwood is the best coach in the conference. All due respect to John Becker, but the things he's done in Orono, of all places, has been miraculous. They bring back a really good front court. I think Killian Gribben is sneaky under the radar, one of the best defensive bigs in this league. Blocks a ton of shots.
I did not think he was good at Siena, but he was solid last year.
I thought he was going to be bad. I thought it was going to be Red Van Tucic, and then Gribben came up, blocked shots, acted really well as an interior.
He was a lot better for Maine than he was for Siena.
Oh yeah, way better. And then he was really efficient on the offensive end. And then also Keelan Steele, who wasn't as efficient but flashed a lot of athleticism. I'm thinking back to UMBC and Duke games where he showed he has pop. He's good. He can catch and finish on the roll. He has some real verticality on the defensive end with blocking shots. Here's the problem is that you have a good front court. Markwood built the entire Maine program over the past 2 years on the backcourt and wing productions. He ran extended pressure-paced backcourt with two of the best defensive backcourt players this league has seen in Kellen Tynes, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and Jaden Clayton. And then on offense, you ran a ball screen motion continuity offense where it was important for your wings, AJ Lopez, Chris Mantis, Keon Burns, to make shots. And Maine shot the lights out last year. Because if those guys were making shots on the wing, then the gaps for the ball screen lanes opened up, and then Tynes could score on the interior, and it was just a beautiful motion offense. Well, now you've lost all of those guys, and your strength is now completely in the front court. And I think Markwood told me he's planning on going really young at point guard, like running. He has one of 3 freshmen that are going to platoon there. And then you have Mabry as your 2, who is like an okay shooter, but that's about it. I don't know how he's going to be able to run his offense with your front court pieces being your strong suit. And on top of that, those guys were only good because they had Kellen Tynes dishing him the ball night in and night out. So can they create on their own? I think the defense will be good because they're imposing in the front court. And I think Markwood is going to coach up some of those backcourt pieces into decent defenders. But I think the offense could get really ugly. And if the floor spacing goes down, then your ball screen continuity offense is just done for. I will mention too, UMass Lowell and Bryant are the super high variance guys. No idea what's going to happen with them. Just complete roster overhaul, both sides. Bryant obviously got a new coach.
I think Khalil Farmer could be a good player in this league.
I think that Daryl Yepto is my guy. I really, really like Daryl Yepto. He's coming up from the Division II level. 2 years ago, played for a St. Michael's team that I think won 24 games, went like 17-5.
St. Michael's beat Vermont this week.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. But this guy is he's like wide framed. He's a good ball handler. He's good in ball screens. He's elite shooter, catch and shoot and off the dribble. I think he could have a very similar year to what Sammy Pisas did at New Hampshire last year, coming up to a higher level for a team that needs scoring, that lost a lot. And I think he's actually a much better defender. I think he's going to be a wide framed. I think he can be a good point of attack piece. And he'll be the guy for that Lowell team. They'll surround him with they'll surround him with Jared Frey and Farmer, who I think are off-ball shooters. And then you've got Austin Green, Gerald Robinson, Sean Simmons, who are complete unknown front court pieces, but could be good on those flex cuts. Duquette likes to run the flex motion. So if they become physical downhill drivers and can score there, then Lowell has a high ceiling. If they can't, then I think Lowell has a pretty low floor.
Yeah.
Brian, I feel pretty similar about, I'm really interested to see how Jamian Christian's defensive style works in the American East. He's a Shaka Smart disciple. So heavy on ball pressure, mayhem, full court extended pressure. He wants to disrupt. He wants to keep teams from getting into offensive sets. They're versatile, I think. I think they'll be aggressive. They have a lot of size. But then the players themselves, Quincy Allen is an elite athlete. That's about it. Keegan Harvey hasn't played in 3 years, although he is a big ball handler who can shoot a lot of threes.
I don't really have a lot of players on this Bryant roster that I'm looking at and saying this year they could be really good. But
that's the thing.
I do think Ty Tabalis as a freshman, someone to look out for. Got to see him in person this summer at NEPSACs. Was the best player on the floor at that event.
I think he'll be freshman of the year in this conference.
I think, was originally was 25, then went to 26, then back to 25 to sign with Bryant. Think that he has a chance to get a lot of opportunity, can shoot, can drive, can really guard. I think you're probably right about him being in the conversation for freshman of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's the starting point guard on that squad. And then 2 quick notes on the basement, NJIT and New Hampshire. They're going to both be bad again. NJIT, Sebastian Robinson is going to
shoot a ton.
He's going to have the highest offensive rating, or the highest usage rate, and the lowest.
Definitely not the highest offensive rating.
Yeah. The highest usage rate and the lowest offensive rating in the conference.
If he has the highest offensive rating in the conference, then NJIT might be really, really good.
No, they're like, without Francis, it's gonna be the Seb Rob show. And I actually think there's some decent upside for the offense, but it's just not going to come together. It's going to be the Seb Rob show. New Hampshire, watch out for David Poser. I think really came into his own late in the season, especially as New Hampshire got better and stopped playing so much ISO ball through Sammy and McComb. If they work the ball, Nathan Davis wants to run an up-tempo, free-flowing motion offense. If they work the ball through Poser more, I think he has a pretty good year. Rest of this roster, I don't know. They'll both be bad. So that's my all-around America East thoughts. If you want more, the full season preview will be out on Mid-Major Madness, likely Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. I kind of think that you hit most of it. I'll probably do similar for the MAC, which we're going to do right now.
As you should.
We're going to have our interview with Sacred Heart's Anquan Hill, and it's going to play right now. Welcome back to the Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Steelers Northeast preview. I am Sam Fetterman here with Tanner McGrath and Anquan Hill from Sacred Heart. Welcome to Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Steelers, Anquan.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So back in June, when I was at Sacred Heart practice, you told me that the Pioneers have the best roster in the MAC by far. I want your 60-second elevator pitch on defending that take to somebody who might be a little bit skeptical. I'm going to start the stopwatch. Right, go.
Okay, so first off, I believe this last year, but especially this year, I think we have the best front court in the MAC. Me, Jan Farrell, who came from ECU, Abdu, who's a freshman who's really, really good, was a 4-star on some sites. Also, we have Lucius, who's gotten a lot better. I think this is just a really good front court. Also, our guard play, we obviously have 2 people on the preseason All-MAC teams in Makai Connor and now Ralph Byer. Makai, being one of the best playmakers in the league with our offense, everything just flows really naturally very well. And that's why we had a very good offense last year. And I think that's going to continue to be a top 1, 2, or 3 offense in the league. Also, we've gotten a lot better defensively and rebounding, which has been flaws for us with the last year. So we did get bigger, and, we also have a common goal that we all think that we can achieve this year.
Great job. Exactly a minute. You mentioned rebounding.
Sure.
What do you think is kind of the key to improving as a rebounding team? What has been emphasized in practice?
Oh, it's kind of just a mindset thing, rebounding, a lot of it is just motor and effort, and that's what our coaches has emphasized to us a lot this year. And also boxing out, that's been a big emphasis for us as well during practice. Crashing on the offensive glass, like that's one of our key principles that we have to stick to continue to be a great offensive team.
Tanner?
Hey, Anquan, Tanner McGrath. I also work with Sam over at Mid-Major Madness. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today. So 2 questions for you. The first was, you turned into a downright sharpshooter last season. I think you made 45% of your 4 threes per game. You were one of the best catch and shoot guys in the nation. Can you talk to me a bit about the process of becoming a better shooter? Is it just reps? Is it something else?
It's a multitude of different things that comes with, reps, also having the confidence to just go out there and let it fly, because, a game is just so much different from being in an empty gym. Everything's just moving a lot faster. You're thinking more. So, yes, reps do matter a lot, but also just getting comfortable out on the court as well. It matters a lot. And I think that I really found my confidence here with that. So, those reps are really translating into a game.
And I can only imagine that it helps to have a really good point guard who you mentioned in Makai, dishing you the ball night in and night out. He probably puts you in the right spot and hits you right in the bucket every time, right?
Yes, of course. He just sees the game differently. And you can tell, from a great playmaker to just an average one, they see passes that, a lot of people just can't see. And Makai is just great with, manipulating the defense, finding the skip passes, finding the slice passes in transition. That's why I think we're going to be a great transition team this year as well, because having Makai bring up the ball, it's just, the options are endless with that.
Yeah. Sam, you got another one?
Yeah. So obviously you redshirted your first year with Sacred Heart. Jaden Slaughter also missed a full season in his first year with Sacred Heart. is there any kind of do you feel that you've kind of helped him through that? Obviously, it was an injury versus a red shirt. Do you feel that he can kind of have a big impact this year because he kind of has been through the grind, even though he wasn't on the court?
Yeah, I believe he can have a really big impact, kind of sort of how Amari Stewart had his impact last year. I think that Amari's like in fact, Deshaun Giddens that's on our team this year. I think he also reminds me a lot of him as well. But Jaden, he just brings a different type of guard on our team where, he is physical, he's a bigger body. He can go down there and mix it up in the paint. He's becoming more and more confident throughout practices as well. Like, as you like, obviously coming off a torn ACL, it's rough. Like, especially getting back to it mentally. Figuring out the things you can and can't do again. So I can see his confidence growing a lot. I think he's going to be a really big, impactful player for our team.
There's a lot of returning talent in the MAC this year. I think the third most returning minutes of any conference in the country. Is there a team, a player out there that you're just really excited to get another chance to go up against?
Yeah, I want to say I'm excited for two teams. In fact, I'm excited to go up against Siena again, and also Quinnipiac, who we went 0-2 against last year. So, I think that we're a lot better this year. We understand our system more as well. So I think that we can beat both of those teams. We can go 2-0, or even just get a win on them. Like, I think that both of them are very beatable. Again, like, I believe that we are the best team in the MAC. So, in order to be the best team, you have to beat those very good teams as well.
All right. Thank you, Anquan, for your time. More on the MAC right after this. And again, thank you for watching the interview that we did with Anquan Hill. Let's talk a little more about the MAC. Let's start with Sacred Heart. As we just did play that interview, we kind of mentioned a lot of it in the interview, but this is a team that returns a lot of guys from last year's team, a lot of production. Although they did lose Tanner Thomas, who was their best player last year. Anquan Hill is back. Mackay Connor, who was one of the top passers in the country as a freshman, is back. Now Ralph Byer, who can really shoot it, is back. And Anquan alluded to the front court with Jan Farrell coming in from East Carolina. That's a guy that brings a lot of shooting ability into the front court, something they need without Thomas, and he's strong as well. Abdul Aziz Yad, another really, really strong player in the front court, grown man, as a true freshman coming in this year. Sacred Heart has all the tools to be one of the best offenses in this league. Griffin Baruch is back as well. Jaden Slaughter, I mentioned in the interview that we just played. There are a lot of different pieces that could come together and give Anthony Latina's team 20 on a given night. I am definitely concerned about the defense. This was not a strong defensive team last year.
It's going to be bad.
I still don't think the guard defense is going to be great. Hill is much more of a perimeter five than a post five. So
they don't have a lot of interior depth too.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where Yad might have to come in. Farrell might have to come in and make a real impact down low on the defensive side. We'll have to see. I do think that the wings for this team are interesting. I think the guards are really interesting as well. And I think there's a lot of talent in the front court. I think that it's very heavily slanted on the offensive side of the ball to where this team could win the league because of how talented and how much they'll score in a league that doesn't typically score at levels that are that high. It's usually one of the better defensive leagues. The games are usually pretty close. Sacred Heart has a lot of ability to kind of come in, hit a bunch of threes, and kind of be up big, as we saw in the MAC tournament last year against Fairfield, where they came in, they went up 11-2 within the first couple of minutes, and the game was never close really from there. That's something that I think Sacred Heart has the ability to do that most teams in the conference don't have the ability to do it the way Sacred Heart does. They scored 90 a whole bunch last year. They got out to big leads. So I think that's something that the Pioneers are really good with. They were second in offense, 10th in defense last year. They love playing in transition. They love running. They love getting those transition threes. They love the across the court transition pass from Connor to a shooter that opens up some space down low as well. They love that. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that for Sacred Heart this year.
Probably the best inside-out duo in the league too, I'd say.
It's up there. It's a really good
Yeah.
duo. There's a lot of good players in the MAC, I think, this year.
Absolutely.
Want to talk as well, kind of my number one team in my power rankings was Siena.
Same. I agree.
I think that you could go in a lot of directions for number one. I think this is definitely the most the toughest number one to pick out of the 5 leagues that we're doing today.
I think there's like 4 or 5 teams that could be. I think you could make an argument for number one.
I could really.
I think Siena should be the consensus number one.
I don't like. I disagree on consensus. Like, I think that there's a lot of people that should be picking other teams, because I think there's a lot of really good arguments for other teams. Except Siena is kind of where I landed, just because you have the 3 best players from last year's team are back, with Justice Schultz, Brendan Coyle, and Gavin Doty. You have the guy who was kind of the most important guard defender on that team last year, and Marcus Jackson is back from injury. You added a ton of different options to the front court, and Tasman Goodrick from Gannon, who can really run the floor. He's mobile, he's effective, he gets rebounds. Riley Mulvey, who's going to be more of that rim protector type, where he can kind of drop and play big 7-footer. Not a lot of 7-footers in the league. And then Antonio Chandler, who's maybe not a 5, but a front court piece that's really, really strong attacking the rim, posts up, gets offensive rebounds, can come into the game and do that. And I also think there's upside swings on this roster. Christian Jones, for me, if this team didn't have Justice Schultz, Christian Jones would be arguably my pick for freshman of the year. He's electric. He plays with so much energy. I don't know if we're going to see Schultz and Jones on the floor together very much, because both of those guys are small and can struggle defensively, but Jones is a better shooter. He's really fast as well. He'll get his minutes for sure at the point to give Schultz some relief. Schultz is the floor raiser. Jones is the ceiling raiser for this team. And I think Marcus Jackson's another ceiling raiser type piece because of what he can do on the defensive end and how much he can impact the game without touching the basketball. Doty, it feels like he's always around the basketball. Coyle, again, another guy who doesn't need the basketball to impact the game, because his spacing itself is the threat of him shooting a 3 alone will pull a defender out. And if they can get the healthy version of Reed Ducharme, that would be huge. I know Isaiah Henderson can really shoot. Owen Schlager can really shoot. They've got a lot of options.
I love Doty and Coyle on the wing, and I love Schultz. I think Schultz is such a dog. Front court, I think, is where there would be the biggest questions. Some depth concerns, some rim protection concerns. But other than that, I adore this team.
They're really fun, and I think GMAC, that staff, Ben Lee, Onwaku, Blackwell, did a really good job putting this team together and kind of addressing what they needed to address. You hear a lot of coaches kind of at the end of the year assess in their final press conference kind of like what they want to improve on for next year in the portal at this time. One of the things GMAC said was, we need to get tougher in the paint. They did that. Not every team has the resources to kind of go out there and pick their guys and figure out exactly how they can improve on the thing that they really need to improve on, as well as returning as much as Siena does. Siena is very fortunate with resources to be able to do that, as they definitely have one of the higher budgets in the conference. But the fact that they were just able to go out there and put their money where their mouth is and bring back key guys while also addressing the team needs in a manner that I think will really help them out, it's going to lead to a surge in the standings in my eyes for Siena. I had them at the top of my power rankings. I had Sacred Heart up there as well. I also had Manhattan up there. I will say Will Sidnor did not play in their exhibition against Monmouth the other day. Definitely, if he's not able to go, that changes a lot of things for Manhattan, because he's a candidate for Player of the Year. We'll talk Amari Monroe in a minute, but Will Sidnor, as a 6'8", 6'9", wing 4-5, he can kind of play up and down the spectrum.
3-level scoring forward nightmare to guard. Mismatch nightmare.
Matchup nightmare. Nobody can really guard him because of how much he brings to the table in different spots. He can post up, he can face up, he can cut, he can even run some ball screens. He can definitely, but they don't need him to run ball screens because they have so many ball screen guards with Devin Dinkins and Jaden Winston. Devin Dinkins had a huge year last year as a spark plug off the bench. Can really shoot it, limitless range, probably one of the best shooters in the conference. Jaden Winston has kind of been trying to add a little bit of that to his game, but he's more of the kind of
table setter, scrappy POA defender.
Setter, get really physical and in your face on defense as well. That's something that he can
high
really
steal rate, super high steal
rate. And they
rate.
want to do that, and they really wanted to do that as well with some of the transfers they brought in. Are guys that just will want to play some really tough defense. Eric Oliver Bush coming in from Division II and coming in from he played his high school ball in Philly. That's where John Gallagher's from. John Gallagher talks to his guys in Philly. What do they say about Eric Oliver Bush? He's tough. He's scrappy. He defends really well. He's big for a guard, and he can defend basically anyone on the floor. That's what they say. Anthony Isaac can really rebound the ball, really physical, really tough. Terrence Jones has played for winning teams at Division I with Norfolk State. They really wanted him to bring that winning experience because this is a team that, while they were exciting last year, they were not particularly great. They were 12-8. They were much better than they had been, but they were still a poor defensive team for most standards. And it was a lot of progress, but
I don't see a big upside on the defensive end this year.
There was a lot of progress, but they still lost a lot of winnable games. I think that's why they wanted to bring in a guy like Terrence Jones, who's played for a winner. Now, again, the defense for this team probably still not going to be great. The offense is going to be awesome. Haven't even mentioned Fraser Roxborough, who I think might be the guy in line to take the biggest step forward in this conference as a kind of outside shooting, inside out four-man, can play a little bit of different spots as well. I think the front court's going to be awesome with Sidnor and Roxborough. I wonder how much Marko Ljubicic is going to be involved. He's probably the only true center out there on this roster.
You also just trust Gallagher to put everyone in the right place. I love him. I love him as a coach. I think he's a floor raiser. I think he always overperforms. Defense will be bad, but I trust his offense and to put everyone in the right place because there's a lot of talent on the offensive side for this team.
Would also want to mention they brought in Asir Miguel and Karan Elliott late in the cycle. Gal likes both of those guys. He also likes Amari Moore. He can really shoot it. Still waiting to hear some more stuff on Brett Rumpel and when he's going to be back. We're going to talk now Quinnipiac, who brings back Amari Monroe and Jaden Zimmerman, and the two-time reigning coach of the year, and Tom Pecora, two-time reigning regular season champion. So it's pretty easy to see why they were picked number one in the preseason poll. Would not blame anyone for having them number one. Definitely flirted with it throughout the offseason. Monroe, one of just a couple mid-major players that returned after winning Conference Player of the Year to their mid-major program. A guy that flirted with the transfer portal, went in there, had a final six out of the portal, was leaning probably towards Rutgers, Tom Pecora said, but ended up coming back. What Tom Pecora called a mature decision, and Monroe really wants to build that legacy at Quinnipiac.
I think he'll win Player of the Year.
Yeah, he's the easy front runner for Player of the Year. The type of guy that was in the race for Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year last year. He didn't end up winning Defensive Player of the Year, but he had a very strong argument.
And that really highlights, I think,
in every passing lane. He makes life difficult. He's long. He's super athletic. He's an absolute freight train getting to the basket. Can dunk on anyone in the league.
I think that really highlights Quinnipiac's strength too, which is two-way play. They're one of the better, I think, like defense and offense balance, and that's because you have a guy like Monroe who's a two-way.
Yeah, and this is an athletic basketball team. Jaden Zimmerman is a really, really good athlete. That's the other key returner that they bring back. Was a really good freshman last year. Took steps towards the end of the year as well. Had some really nice moments in that conference tournament game. But overall, Zimmerman and Monroe, arguably top returning duo in the league. There's a lot of fun duos. Those two have as much upside as anyone.
The only question I have for Quinnipiac is shooting and floor.
I question two things. A, obviously, the shooting could be a concern. And B, just the 5 spot.
Sure.
Because Monroe is not a 5, best as a 3 or 4. Grant Randall was a little thin. Not sure what he brings at the 5. They're going to play him there, though. They're going to have to play Spence Wayway a lot, Sam Nosakare, a freshman. We'll see how that kind of goes. I do like the guards that they brought in Garen Gamba and Jones, two guys that bring some athleticism. Jones a little explosive. Garen Gamba, kind of a junkyard dog type. Samson Riley was named a captain. He's going to be important for this team. Probably the best shooter on the team. I like Braylon Ritvo too. I just don't know what the role and minutes allocation is going to look like in the front court. That's kind of my concern, that I just don't know what it looks like yet. Keith McKnight, another guy that's really talented, but just can't really shoot. We'll have to see what he ends up doing. I trust Tom Pecora to make it work. I trust Amari Monroe to make it work. I trust Jaden Zimmerman to make it work. I think there's enough talent on this roster for them to be really good.
I think they're a minimum top 3 team in the league.
I don't know if that means winning the league, but I know it means they'll be in the conversation throughout the year.
Yep.
Marist, I know you texted me.
Yeah, can I hop in on
go ahead.
your thing here? Marist. I think Marist is being way slept on. I think, what did you pick them, 6th? I think I saw Blue Ribbon pick them 5th.
6th in my power rankings.
I mean, one thing that I noticed about when I was looking through this entire conference was I have a lot of questions about a lot of defenses. I think Iona, I think Siena, I think Sacred Heart, I think Manhattan. I think a lot of these top teams have serious defensive issues. Marist, first of all, they returned the second most minutes in the conference. The most disciplined elite drop coverage scheme, I think, in the nation, arguably. I mean, fantastic at protecting the rim. They don't let anyone get to the rim. They are awesome in catch and shoot denial. Nobody gets on open jumpers. And they have 3 really good PNR defenders in, Collins Roberts, Lewis, and Daughtry, who can act as your pure POA defender in ball screen coverage, but then you have 2 more who can act as free safeties, kind of something that Cincinnati did really well last year. I think this is by far and away the best defensive team in the conference. I think that gives them a really high floor with John Dunn. I have no idea how they score, but I think that
I have
right now. I have them power rated 4th.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair.
And I think it could be 2nd. I think KenPom has them 2nd.
They could be anywhere from 1 to 7.
I just think Marist deserves more love. I think they're right in the conversation to win.
I don't disagree at all about the defense. I think Jaden Daughtry is the best defensive player in the conference. I picked him for defensive player of the year in the preseason. This year, I thought the last 2 years, he's been arguably the most underrated player in the league. The heart and soul of this team is him and JCR. I think Elijah Lewis can score. I think JCR has shown scoring ability. Definitely not a terrific shooter, but can get to the basket. When he was at his best in the MAC tournament 2 years ago, was able to come off ball screens and get to the basket. Want to see that JCR. Right now, there are some injuries in the front court. We'll have to see when Jason Schofield is back. I think Rajon Blackwell, though, is going to give them some offense in the backcourt. Menard, has MAC experience, good competitor, can move the ball, a little bit of shooting. Best as an off-ball guy, but can be an off-ball playmaker. I think Marist has a bunch of interesting pieces. Again, I think they're not going to be bad. Marist won't be bad. As I said, they could be anywhere from 1 to 7, and I wouldn't really bat an eye. I think that's kind of where we are with the MAC right now.
Sure,
1 through 7.
I love this defense. I think it might be the best single individual unit in the conference.
Yeah, and I also want to mention Merrimack's defense, the zone. You can never bet against that. If you're not betting against John Dunn, you're not betting against Joe Gallo either. I think Kavere Kennedy, a freshman point guard from Philly, is going to be a stud. He's not Bud Clark as a scorer, but he has the same chip on his shoulder type of thing out of Philly Catholic League. High assist numbers, high rebound numbers, steal numbers in that league were off the charts. High level competitor at a very high level of high school basketball, able to step in immediately and on day one and be a big contributor for this team. I love Ernest Shelton. I think Ernest Shelton can be a really, really effective athlete and shooter. Can shoot threes over you all day, can dunk on you, can get to the line, will be an impactful defender in the zone. Marrero, another guy that'll shoot the ball. They did a really fine job, I think, replacing Savage and Beck as shooters. And I think they upgraded athleticism with Shelton and Marrero in that spot. And I think Ty Dorsett will play a role as well. Malik Edmead in the backcourt too.
The zone is really plug and play. It seems like they got some good pieces to plug.
And Aliou is just a defensive menace. They haven't had an athlete. They haven't had an athlete like that in a while. I mean, Atumnu was awesome. Cease is more athletic. Todd Brogna, really efficient scorer, can kind of come and play in different spots. Roll man, post up, spot up on the perimeter. Give it to him in a bunch of different ways. He'll figure it out.
I just don't think this offense will be very good. Don't think they create easy buckets. Don't think they get to the line, and then you can't replace Bud Clark.
I mean, that's fair, but like
one of the highest usage point guards.
It's not like they were a very good offense last year,
and now they lost their fulcrum.
Yeah, I totally get the reservations on this team, but I also think that they brought the guys they brought in the portal they did about as well as I think they could have done.
Sure. I bet they finished just over 500.
Then there's Iona, who like the real huge wild card in this conference, because I have no idea like what it's really going to look like, because new coach has never been a head coach.
It's going to be an NBA style offense.
Yes, it will.
High spacing, multiple ball handlers.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, multiple ball handlers. They brought in Denver Englund. Denver Englund's going to be if there was a traditional point guard, he would be it, but they're also going to have Keyshawn Williams. They're also going to have Kosi Akametsu. They're going to have a lot of guys that are going to handle the ball.
Khalil Badru.
Yes.
I love this kid. Sorry to interrupt, but I just think New Hampshire became a vastly different team once he came into the rotation. I mean, first of all, great small ball floor who can cut, create paint points. But then all of a sudden he really figured out how to score in ball screens. I mean, they put him in ball screens. He was an amazing ball screen operator. By the end of the year, he was their best offensive player. He's great on the offensive boards, and you could play him 1 through 4 on defense, and he's pretty passable. He's very switchable. High motor, great in closeouts. I think he's a great player for this team.
I think Badru is going to be fun. Cormier can really shoot. The three really high upside pieces that are kind of going to dictate whether they're going to be, whether Iona's going to be like 7th or if they can be a lot higher. Akametsu, coming in from Santa Clara, can be like a bigger ball handler, can score, really athletic. DeAndre Lindsay, the freshman, kind of the essence of a guy that can really dominate around the rim, but really run the floor as well. And Lamine Sabali, older transfer, but Dan Giroux loves what he can do with the ball in his hands, kind of from different spots around the floor as kind of a really simple playmaker. Not like a high usage guy, but a guy that can be efficient in medium usage and also just be a super versatile defender. CJ Anthony has actually played a little more than I kind of thought he was going to play in terms of what we've seen, what I've heard so far from their early games. He's a piece to look out for. Was a walk-on at Cincinnati. And then they've got shooting in the front court with Jungers and Toby Harris as well. I mentioned Cormier can really shoot. Matt Reed, they're trying to use in different ways. I'm very fascinated by Iona. I think like night one of the season, watching Iona trying to figure stuff out. Well, obviously they don't play on night one. They don't play until Friday against Hofstra, but we'll be watching very closely.
Yeah, I think Keyshawn Williams will be pretty good. I think he's going to be the workhorse.
Yeah, I mean, Keyshawn Williams, I don't know how I didn't mention him. Like, he's going to be probably the team's top scorer.
Yeah, I think he'll be the workhorse. I think the offense will be good. I think that the defense will be okay. Rim protection, I don't like. But high variance team. Super high variance team. Could finish like 1-9. So,
yeah, kind of going to speed through the rest. Obviously, Mount St. Mary's won the league last year. Xavier Lipscomb's back. He's the heart and soul. Arlandis Keys was really good in the MAC tournament. He's back as well. They love having Justin Amati in the building. That's a kind of an experienced guy. Trey DeVoe, a really breakout stretch towards the end of last season for Western Illinois. Anthony Arrington and Mason So in the backcourt will be interesting pieces, but I kind of think the backcourt is going to be mostly Lipscomb and Keys. Luke McKeldin in the front court didn't play a lot at Santa Clara, has some size. Wonder how that's going to turn out for them. A lot of questions kind of just with I don't know if this team's talent level is as high as some of the other teams we've discussed, but Donnie Lind won the MAC in his only year. There's no way to look at this team and say I don't think they can be good, because Donnie Lind has proven that he can really take a lot of different things and a lot of different things that are thrown at you within a season, injuries, changes in the way that you have to go about things, and he ends up winning regardless. Last season, there's no evidence to the contrary. Now there's only one season of evidence for him, so it's not a huge sample size, but there's no evidence to the contrary. So you can't pick them.
What did they finish in the regular season standings?
They were tied for, I think, tied for fourth or tied for something like that, and they ended up finishing. And they
tied for fourth, yeah.
Yeah, and they played in the 3-6 game as the 6th seed.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going to be. I think the Mount's going to be interesting.
I think they'll be gritty on defense, and they won't score much.
I don't know how much they're going to score. That's the other thing. And Fairfield, I think their roster build is a lot closer to what it was 2 years ago when they were really good. Had all those guards. I think Sparks, Mejia, Turner, Estevez gives them a better chance to have a good scoring backcourt than last year when it was Dion Perry and that version of Sparks and Bergens, and Prophet Johnson was obviously really good, but I just don't think they had enough guard scoring. They didn't have enough scoring in general. They didn't have enough rebounding either. They're gonna have more rebounding from Brandon Benjamin this year, who is a freshman that they really like. Declan Wupper-Fenning, another freshman that they like. That those two will play a lot in the front court. I'm really fascinated by how much those guys will play, if they'll play together a lot, what styles they'll be used a lot in. But those guys will be key pieces to whether this team is able to kind of exceed the expectations, kind of crack that upper echelon of this conference. Because I think the talent level overall probably is there if you kind of see it from the lens of, hey, Estevez was a guy who was really productive in the A-10 as a freshman, kind of took a step back. We'll see if he can kind of grab that spark back. He's talented. Deuce Turner has scored at a really high level in Division I basketball.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Deuce Turner.
Yeah,
and a Big West player too.
Yeah, I think the backcourt has a lot of upside. I also think there's a lot of downside in the backcourt. I think that it's a very not like crazy high floor, but very high ceiling.
It's erratic decision making and shot selection are issues. Yeah, turnovers, I bet, will be an issue.
Yeah, I'm definitely see a path to this team being pretty good though. And then
I think the interior defense though is going to hold them way back. I project this defense very low. Lack of proven size, pummeled at the rim last year. Yeah, I think I'm lower on Fairfield than you. I
have them like 8th or 9th in the power rankings, but I think the upside is very high.
I have them 11th.
Okay,
I'm pretty low on Fairfield.
Another team to discuss. I like Akil Watson. I think he's definitely a good pickup for them. I think Bryce Eaton, one of the more kind of under talked about point guards. Not so sure like how underrated he is, because I feel like people that watch him know like he's a talented guy. He brought a lot of juice for a team that needed it, but they still didn't have enough. I still don't think this team's going to score very much. I think that's going to be a problem. Defensively, Scroggins is a good piece. Williamson coming back. Agu in the front court as well. they have a bunch of options to play pretty big in the front court as well. I think Watson is mobile enough to maybe get some minutes at the 3. He can probably be more of a 4 though. Agu, Scroggins, Williamson, give you some options 4 or 5 as well. Ewing as well. Bland coming back from injury should be a help, but he's never really shot the ball as well as I think he can. At what point do the shots just have to go in for him? Bakare coming back, and a guy that has shot the ball really well. Fascinated by St. Peter's, but probably less fascinated by them as I am with some of the other teams.
I think they're going to be nasty on defense, but they're also going to play super slow pace and probably not space the floor, score at the rim, struggle to shoot, struggle to pass.
Yeah.
Shooting's dire on this roster. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Ryder, I like bringing back Flash Burton and Zion Cruz. I think that's really big for them. Davis Bynum, good athlete in the front court. AB Coulibaly can be a really fun piece as well, I think. For the most part, though, with this roster, I'm not huge on it. I think Devian Williams was a good pickup, though.
Yep.
Definitely some intrigue with the front court. Shimani Fuller coming in as well. Helterhoff is an experienced U1 big man. But I don't really think this team has a super high ceiling.
No, not really. Well, the half court offense is just mid-range looks, post, high post feeds, and then second chance points. It's just kind of an ugly offense. And then the defense is weird. A lot of press, a lot of zone. I'm with you.
Niagara and Canisius. Niagara, a lot of new guys that didn't play D1 basketball. Canisius, a lot of new guys that did play D1 basketball. I actually kind of have a little bit of intrigue for Canisius. I think Kumu is a really, really good freshman that'll make an impact. I like Njonga as kind of an athletic 5. Nyblack can score. And then for Niagara, I think the backcourt will have much more in terms of playmaking this year. Prudhomme can give them some of that for sure. Griffith and Walters can shoot it. Hawkins and Larson will be pieces in the front court. Overall, though, for Niagara, the roster doesn't excite me a ton compared to a bunch of the other ones in this league.
Yeah. So we both like Siena.
I like Siena.
We both think Monroe is going to be player of the year.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think we should probably go a little quicker for Patriot League and NEC. We're nearing 2 hours. Let's try and keep this show under the 2 hour and 20-minute mark.
Yep. We can run through it.
All right, let's do this. Here's our interview with Matt Langle. Welcome back to the Northeast preview on Brackets, Bubbles, and Bitch Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Tanner McGrath, and we are joined by the head coach of the Colgate Raiders, Matt Langle. Coach, welcome to Brackets, Bubbles, and Bitch Stealers.
Thanks for having me. It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is. You're not the first person to have said that. So, Coach, when I went out to see you guys practice a couple weeks ago, I saw a team that was a lot more athletic, was running the floor a lot more. Is transition something that you guys want to emphasize this year?
I think every coach likes to play fast or thinks they like to play fast. Certainly players all want to play fast. I do think we have some bodies, our rosters maybe more built towards that. The last number of years we've had really talented and productive big guys that, maybe weren't the fleetest of foot in Jeff Woodward and Keegan records, although Keegan ran the floor pretty well. But I think just we're built a little bit better to maybe try and steal some points in transition. Attacking a defense that's backing up, I found is always to be easier than a defense that's set. So as long as we don't turn the ball over needlessly in that process, then I'm content with letting the players go a little bit.
Yeah, and just a couple of things on Jalen last year. Kind of has the experience of being the guy in your system, maybe a year earlier than you would have expected with Braden leaving last year. But how did that season, where he was kind of the guy as the point guard, kind of help him grow? And how is he ready to kind of take that next leap this year?
Yeah, I think when Braden made the decision to leave, obviously Jalen was going to be the most experienced guard returning as a primary ball handler. Unfortunately, he had to do it in many ways all on his own. In doing that, there were some times where he showed that how talented he is and how productive he could be. Plenty of games he was the most talented guard on the court, and he's part of that transition. He's kind of a one-man fast break at times, but I think he also, there were some times where it didn't go well, where he made some, shouldering that load, he made some mistakes in his decision-making process, and maybe pushed when you should have slowed, or slowed when you should have pushed. And I think that the best thing is, the opportunity, you can learn from it. And so I think he took that. He has worked hard on his game and added some things to his game. But I think that, or I hope that that experience will certainly pay off over the course of this season, not just for him, but for our team.
Tanner?
Yeah, I was interested in what you said about Woodward and not being kind of the fleetest of foot. But one thing I've noticed throughout your career is you tend to be pretty fungible, flexible, schematic guy, especially on the offensive end. You like to mold schemes to your personnel. I'm wondering, with Woodward being gone and you return two strong PNR creators in Jalen and Brady, should we expect to see more of like a ball screen centric perimeter offensive attack this season?
I mean, yes and no. I think that there's some things that, you're not just gonna change entirely. I think we do believe in freedom of movement and using actions, whether that's ball screen, whether that's, dribble handoff, whether that's, throwing it to the big guy and letting him make some decisions from the perimeter. I do think you'll see more of the decisions coming from the guards, right? Just that, Jeff was such a commanding presence both on the low post and out on the perimeter, in that, he liked to be the quarterback, so to speak. He liked to have the ball in his hands. He wasn't like, I have to score the points, but he liked to be very involved. So for good reasons last year, mostly his experience in veteran play, and the ball touched him at some point often. So I do think that the ball will be back in the guards' hands a lot more. Not that it won't touch the bigger people, but they're less experienced and they'll be less of a focal point. So I think the decisions will come from the guards in that space a little bit more. And yeah, with Jalen and Brady and Ben Tweedy, who's a transfer, played at Wisconsin, Green Bay, I do think there'll be a little bit more ball screen and then them making the decisions, as opposed to, throwing it to the big guy and letting him make a short roll decision, what have you.
Another thing that I've always liked watching your career is player development. I think you develop players very well. You have 5 rising sophomores on this team that project to be somewhere in your rotation somehow. I think Blake, Josh, Cam, Stevie. Among that group, is there anyone who we think could surprise this season, or anyone we should keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think it's a big question mark for sure. I think they have all shown some signs. Ethan Brown's in that group. Ben Tweedy comes in as a second-year player. I think they've all shown some signs, either in last season in games, or in practices over the summer or early here in the fall, to be able to add some things to what this team needs. That being said, we've also had some setbacks with injuries, and some of them being sidelined, and so some of it also remains to be seen. Sometimes you have a guy in his second year who got a great deal of opportunity in their first year, the way Parker Jones and Jalen Cox did in their first year, to step into those roles in their second year. So I'm not sure yet if any of them will jump off the page. I appreciate your comment about player development. Those are all guys that are continuing to work on their game, and I think that, yes, we have coaches who do a good job of bringing players along. It's a big part of our program and what we pay attention to, but like many guys before them, those guys are invested in improvement, and I do feel good that they're making strides. Now, whether that shows up as 25 minutes and 9 points and 4 rebounds and 2 assists, I think time remains to tell that. But they are doing those things. Just like your point before about, being flexible. This is a player's game. And so the players are going to determine, what we do as coaches in terms of how we play and, how we put the pieces together to try and give us the best chance to have success.
Thank you,
So
Coach.
it takes a lot to kind of bring in a transfer at a school like Colgate. What stood out about Ben that made it that you needed to have him? Well, looks like we lost Coach. But I think we'll be good. I think that's enough stuff for that. More Patriot League right after this. Yeah, so our interview with Matt Langle, the connection kind of went out. It was a little tough, but we really thank Matt and Jordan Doroshenko, the SID over at Colgate, for helping set that up. So Patriot League, let's try and keep this pretty quick because we've been going for a while here. Who do you think is going to win the league?
I think it's a 3-team race. I think it's Colgate, Navy, BU. Colgate,
Agreed.
most interesting thing about Colgate is, like I asked in the interview, will they move to more of a ball screen centric, perimeter oriented attack? I really like Cox. Cox has a high ceiling, but also a really low floor because erratic sometimes. But
I agree.
also,
I like him though. I think that he kind of showed in spurts last year how good he can be.
yeah.
Definitely
Langle also
gonna
raises
hurt.
the floor.
Definitely going to hurt not having kind of a super steady 5-man like they had with Woodward and previously with Records and Woodward together. That was kind of the crux of their team. But I think Cox is talented enough. He's fast enough to get to the basket and it changed the way that they're playing. And I think Tweedy will be a fun addition. I think Cooper Wright, when I went to practice, was really impressive. We'll bring some extra rebounding to that front court. I think the key for Colgate is to find enough like front court scoring.
Sure.
Because I think that obviously it all starts with Cox. Like Cox has to be good. Tweedy has to be good. Jones has to be good. Like they need to find somebody that can kind of give them some points out of the front court that can kind of keep defenses honest and not play to just keep Cox out of the lane, keep their guards out of the lane.
Yeah, I don't know who that'll be.
But I do think I would probably pick Colgate as my top team in this league. Just
a lot of shooting and a lot of
program.
backcourt creation, and Langle always raises the floor. He's always going to be in the mix.
Just based on program and what we know about some of these teams. Also, with moving on to BU, I loved Kyron Alexander. I think he has a chance to be Player of the Year in this league. I've loved him since before his freshman year. I think he can really score. McNair, another guy that can score. Baptiste brings a lot defensively. They get Ethan O back from injury. That's huge. Shemezi is going to be a piece in the front court again. So I think that BU has enough pieces to win the league for sure.
I love this team. I love Kyron Alexander. I think they're the best rebounding team in the conference both ways. Just need to cut down on the turnovers and find enough shooting. If they could shoot a little bit better, BU would be great. Also, really interested in that 7-footer, Ben Defty. I think he could be. I think he has a high ceiling.
Then you mentioned Navy as well.
Benini is my Player of the Year.
I'm a little lower on Benigni. I don't think he's like. I think he's good, but like I don't think he's maybe as good as I don't think his upside is as high as Alexander and Cox in the Player of the Year conversation.
But he's going to have way higher usage.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole offense is based around his elite, like rim pressure and drawing contact, ball screen manipulation,
and
I cut and screen away from it.
Yeah, I think it's very important that Navy brings back as much as they do. Pennick, I like Jinwoo Kim. I think he's a good player. Draper, Aiden Kehoe gives them size.
Elite two-way rebounder and can block some shots, which is something they desperately need.
Would love to see someone else step up though. Want to see.
They have to run kind of like a zone scheme because they're small, and the defense will probably not be that great again.
Yeah, I want to see like
I
want to see like one of those wings, like one of the 6'6" wings, step up. That's a roster with like 30 guys because it's the Naval Academy.
Maybe Don Draper, maybe Madman.
Oh, Draper's definitely solid, but he's also, I mean, he definitely rebounds, but he's also a little undersized even at that point. I would want to see
6'4".
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to see some lineups where they can go a little bigger than that. Who else do you like in this league?
Those are really, the top three. I like Bucknell's offense. I like how they run offense, rim and three, analytically based, but they lost so much with Williamson. I will give a slight shout out to Loyola, Maryland. Another offense that I really like, just because I like how they take shots. They ignore the mid range. They go rim and three rate. They just don't have enough shot makers, and they don't have enough interior guys, and they turn the ball over a lot. But I like the way they run offense. Otherwise,
the thing about this league for me is that I feel like almost all of like the teams just couldn't fill their needs because they can't go into the portal very much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like Loyola had some clear needs. They needed a little more juice out of the backcourt. They needed to replace some stuff in the front court. And I like Theodosia. I like speed. I think those are good players, but like they need even better players. And I don't think that they have the ability to go out there and do that. Like Lehigh brings back a lot of guys, but like they could have used some upgrades in the portal as well. I think a lot of these teams definitely could have used some upgrades. Now, this league is able to keep talent, but there was a big senior class that just graduated.
Yep.
And that's kind of similar to the Ivy League in that sense. There, I think the league could be down because of the seniors that graduated. You look at American, Matt Rogers is one of them. There's so many from that team that were so effective that won the league, and it's going to be a lot tougher this year. Maybe Matt Mayock takes a step forward. Greg Jones is a really solid player. And then Army losing Rucker to graduation and Scovins to the portal, that's a death blow for them. They can't go in the portal to do anything. Ryan Curry is going to have to really shoot a ton for that team. And we kind of saw what that was 2 years ago when Curry had to be the guy. And when Scovins went down last year, they really struggled even with Rucker. So Army could struggle. You mentioned Bucknell. I like Bijak. I think they brought back a bunch of decent pieces, but for the most part, again, really tough. Williamson was so much of their offense. I will say Jacob Meacham, undersized guard, but like you don't need to be 5. You don't need to be 6'1" as a point guard in this league. You can be 5'8" as a point guard in this league if you're talented enough. And I think we'll have to see some. We'll definitely see Meacham on the floor. We'll see how good he is. We'll see if he can win some more minutes and win some upside for that team. Then there's Lafayette. I think Sharif Jackson, another freshman in this league that I like. They brought in him and Luke Belt and Bevilacqua. I think that could give them some real front court depth. Definitely some upside with that. Mark Butler and Caleb Williams is a good backcourt to have. Andrew Phillips brings some experience on the wing as well. Losing Alex Chaikin really hurts, though, because he was one of the best shooters in the conference last year.
And Vonderbaan.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
But they do have Ben Austin coming back, and they have a lot of size with him and Bevilacqua if they can get Bevilacqua fully healthy, because I think he missed a lot of time in high school.
Yeah. I'm going to say BU wins it, and I'm going to say Benini's my player of the year.
I'm going to go Colgate and Cox, because if Colgate's going to win it, Cox probably has to be really good. All right, let's move on. Our last interview was with Ted Hodling, the head coach at the University of New Haven. And welcome back to the Northeast preview here on Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I'm Sam Fetterman with Tanner McGrath, and we are joined by the head coach of the newest Division I program, the University of New Haven Chargers, and Ted Hodling. Coach, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Everything's going well. Getting ready for November 3rd, so about a little over a week away. So excited to be here.
Yeah, the first thing that I think a lot of people want to know about this program is like, what is New Haven's basketball program? What is the identity of the program? When someone watches a Charger game, whether it's a conference game or non-conference game. What are they going to see out of a team that's coached by you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we'd like to be a team with a high talent level, right? I think most successful programs, first and foremost, have good players. So I would love for people when they watch New Haven to, watch guys like Jabri Fitzpatrick and Andre Pasha and Najimy George and say, man, they have very good talent. I think we want to be very competitive, right? Have a competitive will about us where we compete on the floor on both the offensive and defensive ends, and then a team that doesn't beat itself, just very disciplined, right? Very good with handling the ball, limiting our turnovers, great in transition, guarding one-on-one, and then obviously protecting your backboard. So, that's what I would say I'd like people to see.
What do you think it's more challenging now to have a high talent level coming up to Division I and playing against just a higher ceiling level of competition?
Yeah, so things have changed obviously with the transfer portal and obviously with NIL. I think that there's a lot of ways to do it. One of the things we've done is we've kind of gotten a mix of transfers and freshmen. I think in this day and age, some freshmen are being overlooked. I think one of the opportunities that we've looked at is maybe getting a higher level player. He just might be a little bit younger than maybe some of the transfers. But I think it is harder, right? And maybe not higher to get them, but harder to keep them, and harder to get that talent group to stay together. So that's the biggest challenge we all have in this new world of college basketball. But it makes it fun and exciting as well, right? You're constantly looking to add new players and add a different dynamic to your team. And pretty pleased with what we've done so far with our recruiting and like the group that we have.
Some of the other programs that have come up from the NE10 and from the other D2 leagues into the NEC recently, you look at Merrimack, Stonehill, Lemoyne, Mercyhurst, have had success in year one, but they've done it with very experienced rosters.
Right.
You guys are very much not that. So do you at all look at what those programs were able to do, and kind of what went into building this roster?
Yeah, so you're right. Those guys have had a ton of success. I do think it was a little bit different day and age, right, where the transfer portal wasn't as prevalent. If you look at the NE10 rosters now, the all-league team and the all-rookie team, those kids are transferring now. That wasn't happening 5, 6, 7 years ago. So that's the one dynamic I think that's changed. The recruiting portal and the transfer portal has kind of hit Division II and Division III for that matter. The other thing too is I think everyone in the NEC is in the same boat though, right? Because I think a lot of the teams in the NEC are losing their better players, right? Whether that's to a higher level, some kids that maybe want more opportunities to a lower level. So, I think that if we can, click quickly and get our group to play together at a pretty quick pace here, that we can have success. But it's a huge challenge, that's for sure. But I hope our inexperience in some ways will help us. Get a lot of new guys, but a lot of guys that want to prove themselves as Division I players. So, it looks pretty good so far.
Tanner?
Yeah, speaking of one of your newcomers, as the America East beat writer for Mid-Major Madness, I'm a big fan of Briggs. Comes over from Albany. Yeah, I think he's a great 3-and-D wing. But have you seen anything more than that about him that might have surprised you when he started working out with you guys?
Yeah, I do agree with you, right? Like, has the ability to really stretch the floor with his shooting. Very physical guard. Has played college basketball. Has been a couple different spots here over the last 3 years. He's got a high IQ. I think that's the one thing I didn't realize is, he knows when he's open, he knows when he's not, and he actually knows where the ball should go. So, yeah, I was really, really pleased with just how he's fit in just from a, spatial awareness standpoint, like just really good high IQ, and obviously brings those other things into the program as well, which we're going to desperately need.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you, I believe in an interview with Blue Ribbon, you said that you were hoping to play a lot through Pasha as a 5-man and kind of like a 2-guard system. Last year, it seemed like you ran a lot of your offense through King at the 1.
Right.
Like, I'm wondering if you're deliberately trying to change your offense a bit to more interior-based scoring with how you've assembled and retooled this roster.
Yeah. When you given red paint the house red. And, our system is going to be pretty consistent. We run 2 guards. The system created by John Beeline. I learned it when I was at Eastern Kentucky with Jeff Neubauer, who was really, really good offensive coach. So, we've run that for the last 15 years here, but it is a system where you can adapt it to your best players or to their players' strengths. Andre's such a good passer, such a willing passer. It's really unique because he's got great size. But yeah, when you have someone that you can play through at the 5, it's pretty easy to make that decision. So, last year we went through Jalakai a lot. He had the ball in his hands a lot. He was more of a scoring guard than he was a passing guard. So yeah, you're trying to feature the players that are the most productive. Andre and Stefano Falopa, just 2 bigger players though that really have guard skills and guard vision. So yeah, it's been pretty fun to watch those guys work alongside our guards and our forwards and be playmakers.
One thing I did notice just when looking at your roster, seems like you have a lot of freshmen. How do you
Yes.
feel about your depth?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. I think we've had a really good fall, and I think we've had a lot of good performances from a lot of guys. Our older guys have stood out. I think just playing college basketball has given them significant advantage. Jabri Fitzpatrick, Najimy George, who was in the program last year, Andre Pasha, Stefano Falopa, and Kanai obviously have a leg up on the younger guys. But the younger guys have brought a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of excitement. Sometimes that's missing in college basketball now when you don't have many freshmen, and a lot of them had good days. So I think the one thing that we're trying to be aware of is how much they're going to be able to give us early in the season, but we also want to prepare them for the NEC season. So that delicate balance of playing younger guys against high-level competition, getting them ready for NEC competition is going to be something that we can manage. But I look at playing at least 4 or 5 of them early in the season and probably pretty significant minutes.
Does this year feel any different, or is it just kind of the same old for you? I mean, you've been at this for a while.
Right. It feels very different. Basketball is basketball, and we're coming from a really good basketball league with really good players and really good coaches. So that's been a really big challenge for us the last 15 years, and probably has prepared us pretty well to play at the Division I level. The newness of all of it, the newness of the opponents, the newness of the travel, the newness of the scheduling. So all those things have kind of brought a little bit more excitement to the program. And obviously we have a lot of new players. So that's been very, very different as well. But yeah, it's business as usual. But I'd be lying if I didn't say there's a little bit more enthusiasm behind the scenes as far as what we're about to embark upon.
Anything else, Tanner?
Nope, all good. Thank you very much, Coach, and good luck in your first year at the Division I level.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. More on the NEC right after this. Again, thank you to Coach Chet Holding for joining us this afternoon, and to Connor Doherty, the SID over at New Haven, for setting that up. Tanner, the NEC, we're going to kind of go quickly through this. Long Island, LIU, clearly the number 1 team. They return Malachi Davis. They return Shad Lassu. They return Jamal Fuller. 3 key pieces from last year. They bring back They bring in Jomo Goings and Greg Gordon. The talent level on this roster versus the talent level in the rest of the league, it's multiple tiers of difference in my eyes.
Bringing back Davis and Fuller from the portal is huge. All hail Malachi Davis, my pick for player of the year.
Clearly player of the year.
ISO and PNR, heavy offense through those 2 is going to be great. Defense is awesome. Ball screen denial, very switchable, forces a ton of isolation.
I think overall though, this roster is also built to be a good defensive team.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm a Strickland defender. Also, this is a tough team. They force a lot of turnovers and they get up on the offensive glass. Reminds me a lot of a super duper low major Houston. I think they win this league far and away.
I would say I'm definitely concerned about losing Jared Gillian to the Florida State staff. I did not think this was a well-coached team in Strickland's first seasons. They bring in Gillian from Chicago State. Suddenly they look a lot better coached. Still definitely thought there were a lot of warts though. He leaves. There are some interesting names on the staff. Jameer Dismukes is a really successful high school coach in the Chicago area. We'll see how much the staff changes affect this team. I just think talent-wise, they're so far above the rest of this conference that it would be hard to justify anybody else, especially if you would say, hey, Central Connecticut, really well coached, Pat Sellers, the last couple of years they've won the league in the regular season. If you want to say they're really good, the roster is clearly a step down from where it was last year.
They lost their best players.
Yeah, they lost Devin Hay. They lost a bunch of other key pieces.
Jordan Jones.
Yeah, Jordan Jones. Momo, the defensive player of the year in the league last year, he's gone. So a lot of the key pieces from that team are gone. So, but I still think Central is going to be competitive in the league. I would not be surprised if they find a way. Max Frazier comes back, Darren Smith comes back. They bring in Gabe Spinelli, Melo Sanchez. Melo Sanchez can really shoot it. What do you like about Central?
What's interesting is that the top two teams in this conference, LIU and CCSU, are, I think, the most athletic team, and they both run the same defense, which is that ball screen denial, hedging, and blitzing. Meanwhile, the second tier, the Stonehills and Lemoynes and whatever, they are a little bit more fun offensively, but they all are super unathletic on the defensive end and just run a lot of zone. You see a lot of zone in this conference. Yeah, CCSU, they're just going to be a good defensive team. They're going to be a good interior defensive team. I think that the offense is going to take a big hit in that cut-heavy PNR without some of your better downhill playmakers. Like, I really liked Jordan Jones a lot in that offense.
He was awesome.
So, yeah. I think they finished second, distant second probably, but I think they'll probably be way ahead of third. So,
who do you think will be third? Because I honestly have looked at this league up and down, and I have no idea.
I'm gonna go with Stonehill.
Okay, I like it. I like that. I think that is not a bad bet whatsoever.
Well, what's great about Stonehill is that I love the offense that Chris Kaus runs. It's just really pretty motion-based offense, screening, DHOs, cuttings, a lot of ball and player movement, and they have shooting. They have a lot of shooting across the 2, 3, 4, all good shooting. I think the offensive floor is high. Again, it's just they lack the athleticism of the top two teams on the defensive end, and that will ultimately, I think, hold them back from actually claiming a chance at this title.
Yeah, I like some of the pieces they bring back. Think Kofi had some good games last year. Stinson can do it on both ends. Obviously, losing some of the pieces that they did lose is huge. I mean, it's hard to replace Brogna's efficiency. It's hard to replace a lot of that. But I do think that for the most part, Stonehill has a good base of guys, and we'll have to see what else they can do.
It's always nice to watch a Skyhawks game too. Just check in, see their motion offense work. They shoot a lot. It's fun.
I think Lemoyne is going to be fascinating. I got out to one of their practices, got to see Trevor Rowe looks really good. They brought in Amitri Moss, who's going to run the point. They have Dengarang is back. He really took a big step forward towards the end of last year. So I think that Lemoyne can definitely be a threat. It kind of depends on what they can get out of. I definitely am interested to see what they can get out of Ja'Kai Sanders, what they can get out of Tennessee Rainwater.
Dimitri Moss.
I mentioned Moss. I think Samuel Hincapi is a really solid player though as well.
I project Lemoyne with the NEC's second best offense and worst defense. And also, I wonder if, although I do wonder if some defensive regression is possible. Conference opponents shot 40% against them last year in NEC play. That's crazy. That could really turn around this year.
I mean, do we know who's coaching Wagner?
No.
With that in mind, can we even talk about Wagner? Like, do we know what? I have no clue what this is going to look like.
To be honest with you, the roster overhaul, it's entirely JUCO and D2 guys. I have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, I have no idea about Wagner. I have zero idea about Wagner.
Yeah, we talked about New Haven with Coach Hodling. Kind of a similar thing of like, there's so many guys that haven't played T1 basketball on this team. So many freshmen. Some of them are going to have to play big roles because just of how many there are and how much of the roster it takes up.
Yeah, pretty much. No notes.
For Mercyhurst, I think bringing Bernie Blunt back is big. Lemelman and Ivanauskas can take steps forward this year. Manchell is always a tough scout because of defense. They'll be in the mix in the middle of the pack. I think
another very similar team to a Stonehill or Lemoyne, where they run a good motion offense that generates a ton of wide open catch and shoot shots. I mean, like unlimited unguarded catch and shoots. But then their matchup zone defense is just pathetic because they don't have any athleticism. I think they'll be very similar to Lemoyne.
It was a really good. It was always a good defense in D2. Coaches,
yeah, it just hasn't been since they transitioned.
Yeah, I mean, last year's team was definitely a team that had a lot more offensive than defensive talent, I would say.
I think it's going to be the same this year.
Definitely like intrigued by some of the pieces that St. Francis brought in. Cam Tweedy, Sky Wicks, both have a little bit of upside. Zion Russell has been a point guard at the D1 level. You don't see a lot of like D1 transfers into the NEC. St. Francis brought in a bunch of them. So I think that's kind of something to note going into their last year in D1. They kind of went all in on redshirt seniors and seniors because they know that they're going to be recruiting a whole different caliber of player going forward after this. And it's tough because it's a new coach as well with Luke McConnell. No more Krimmel. He retired. So
I'm more interested in Fairdick's new guys.
Yeah.
Parnell, Melson, a lot. They just have they brought in like actual D1 guys.
Yeah, definitely some pieces there.
And they'll run very fast. They will run very fast. It'll be transition up tempo, quick set reads. I think he wants to get rid of.
I would not be surprised if Chicago State is pretty solid.
Well, Chicago State's great. They have a great floor because they win the shot volume battle, and that's what the new coach is going to do. What's his name again? Landon Bussey. Yeah, that's what he did at Alcorn. Rim oriented, offensive rebounds, high free throw rate, defend down, get downhill, crash the glass. They'll force steals. They will get on the boards. They just won't be able to space the floor or shoot like any SWAC team. It's all about the rim.
Like Marcus Tankersley, we know he can score coming over from Alcorn, but legitimately terrible outside shooter.
Yeah. But they do have a high floor just with.
I think they'll be tough. I think they'll be a tough out because I think they're going to be a different look than what you usually get in the NEC.
Way more physical, other than LIU and CCSU. Yeah, the rest of the teams are not quite as physical, more skill-based.
Anything else to add on the NEC?
No, LIU wins it, and all hail Malachi Davis.
Yeah, Malachi Davis, definitely player of the year. LIU, definitely most talented team. Obviously, I have my questions about Strickland without Gillian, but I think that this team is talented enough to offset that.
Yep.
So give me LIU, give me Malachi as player of the year. All right, Tanner, thank you so much for coming on and helping me out with this.
Thank you so much, man. This was really fun. I can't wait.
If you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to hear about NEC basketball, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This is season 6, episode 46 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers, our Northeast Mid-Major preview with Tanner McGrath. We will see you next time on Sunday night, the night before the season, for our Christmas Eve special. Thank you so much.